Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Thursday, May 23rd, and a lot transpired today for both the Lions and the Pistons, and we're going to get into all of it. We have video footage from Dan Campbell's press conference, video footage from Aaron Glenn's press conference, and video footage from some of the players speaking to the media. So it'll be a good show today, and we're going to get to the Pistons late in the show. Sean Murphy will be joining the program, help us break down the new president of basketball operations and the uphill battle that he faces. But fellas, how we feeling tonight?
Beautiful. $1 million.
Chat, how the hell are we? I'm doing great.
I love it. I'm excited to do the show today. We got the people ready, so appreciate you all. We're one subscriber, I believe, away from 7,000. Actually,
we're hit it 7K 7,001.
We just hit 7,000 subscribers, man, big time.
Let's go.
Only 3,000 away from 10,000. We appreciate every single one of you. We've had an influx of subscribers the last day or so, and honestly, the support has been awesome. So
unbelievable.
Boys, keep going. 10,000 is the next goal. We'll probably have a giveaway soon.
And ready for a big show too. There's a lot today. I'm excited. We usually don't have a lot in the offseason.
Jeffrey grinding on his own, releasing the videos when they come out. The man is working hard. So shout out to Jeff. He's doing it all, man. Guy deserves all the props.
Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys. It's a team effort, and the boys are grinding, and the people are supporting. So with Booner handling socials, Lukas, Mike, with you guys, and of course I'm trying to do as much as I can on YouTube here. It's team effort, and we're gonna get to 10,000 hopefully before the season. That's the plan. So when the Lions, they kick off here, we'll be at 10K, and we'll probably do a streamathon. We've mentioned that before, but we'll probably do a streamathon around 9,000, try to get to 10,000.
We'll do something.
So that'll be fun. But fellas, let's get right into it. And I appreciate you, Mike, by the way. But let's get into the Dan Campbell stuff here, because he had some bars, all right? Some bars. He talked about Amik Robertson, Jameson Williams. Had some high praise for Jameson Williams. Hendon Hooker. Talked a little bit about Terrell Williams. I know there's a long list of injuries. Guys, I'm not going to – they're not – you got to realize some of those injuries are, we'll see. It's like little nicks,
There's nothing to worry about at all.
Ticky-tacky. You're being cautious, potentially personal matter. Like they had something going on. Like I don't think half the roster's hurt. I mean, what's even happened for these guys to get hurt? So I
promise you, like when training camp comes around, there might be like 3 guys on this list. Like it's going to be so much shorter than this. This was just like, if you have anything wrong with you, let's just sit you out and just do individuals instead of actual going through. And I'm sure some of these guys too, what you guys got to realize is this is day 3 of OTAs. So like we're just getting in at day 3. There's probably stuff that happened Tuesday and even yesterday to where some of these guys were going and now they're just sitting out a little bit. So like they're already almost full week in now, and the media just got in there and Dan talked to them. So they're like, there's nothing to worry about.
And Phil says, you guys know I'm here. Never acknowledge it all.
Phil,
we love you. We don't mean to not acknowledge anybody, Phil. So we appreciate you. Let's get right into it. I'm going to play the Amik Robertson bit from Dan Campbell, him giving him some praise and where, maybe Amik Robertson is playing a little bit. It's a position that we've talked about for Amik Robertson. We talked about it with John yesterday, but here's Dan Campbell on Amik Robertson.
Straw and Arnold really aren't getting a lot of reps right now. We're being smart with both of those guys. Just a couple of things popped up, nothing to panic about. But that's kind of the beauty of it, especially when they come back. We've got, Brad's done such a good job on the back end now. We've got a lot of competition back there, and then it's, who can do this? And that's just the beginning of this. Okay, Amik at nickel, we know Amik can play outside too, but then what about Rakestraw or Arnold or, Dorse and Vildor, and, we've got options. And so that's kind of what we're tinkering with a little bit right now. It is exciting though. It's pretty.
Yeah, and the versatility aspect, guys, we've talked about. A lot of DBs on this team that can play multiple positions, and I think that slot position, you have a handful of guys, especially. I mean, Ennis Rakestraw, someone that people mentioned playing slot. Amik Robertson. You have Brian Branch, obviously, who played and thrived in it last year. But what Dan Campbell's saying, the competition in the DB room is probably one of my favorite competitions to watch, guys. By far.
It is. It's weird too because it's like the whole 360 or was it 180? Like just switched completely from last year. Like there was no competition last year, and I get like outside of Amik Robertson and them training for Carlton Davis, like even the two rookies there, it's something like Brad wasn't even, and he says all the time in the draft, not even planning on sitting there he's not sitting there being like, oh, we need to go get corners. It's just, no, I want to get best players, and the two best players at the time they picked were corners. So AG went out that like AG going into this year, that was just like best case scenario for him. And I know we're going to hear some AG stuff here today, and even mentioning like how these guys play, they're man-to-man corners, even like, with Tarion and Ennis Rakestraw, like these guys are really good at doing that. And that's the type of style that AG even like. So like to Dan's point is all these guys are going to be able to be versatile and move around. And like, hey, we're talking about like, hey, who's going to win these battles? Who's going to get in these positions? All these guys are going to have chances because some of these guys are going to be able to play in the slot. Some of these guys are going to be able to play outside. They're going to be able to do different things. So it's the best man is literally going to play in this defense, especially in the corner room. Like we haven't seen this ever. Last year, it was like we haven't had any corner room whatsoever. And just all of a sudden like that, we've got an absolute like overflux of just players now, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. And no, it's a good problem to have too. And like he said, all these guys are so versatile. You can move them around. They can play inside. They can play outside. So that competition is just going to heat up. It's not like they're competing just for the outside position, or these guys are competing for the nickel. A lot of these guys can be moved around everywhere. So that competition isn't ending anytime soon. This is going to be a year-long thing, and these guys are going to be working. Like I said, this is a very good problem to have after having a struggling secondary.
Oh yeah. I mean, they couldn't stop a nosebleed last year, and now it's like, who's starting? That's like a legitimate question. Yeah. Like
it's
Kindle
not
Vildor, it will not see that starting lineup.
He didn't mention Vildor.
Yeah, he will not. Vildor will not. Even the guys like Emmanuel Mosley, I feel like we just don't talk about, and because it's just the corner room is so deep, and Emmanuel Mosley before his injuries. I mean, that division he played in with the 49ers, he was guarding good wide receivers. So you got him, Amik, right? Tarion, Carlton, Ennis. And we'll get to Carlton a little later because I'm falling more in love with him.
Love Carlton Davis.
Closer and closer. Like
it's not even too, Jeff. We can have the versatility and all that. It's that you just have absolute dogs in the room right now, like Dan said, like dogs. Yeah. And guess what that does? It creates competition. You're going to hear Carlton talk about that, about like it just iron sharpens iron. And when you do that for like these 3 weeks here with these DBs, they're about to just go head to head with great wide receivers, and they're going to be competing with each other to get time on the field. When you do that all off season, all through training camp, all the way up to week 1 versus the Rams, these guys are just going to get that much better and better and better. Especially like, think about these like high level rookies. Like a rookie's never going into a great position usually, especially like a guy like it's like maybe you are, but it's tough to get spots when you're in there competing and getting better. Like Carlton Davis is going to make some of these guys very, very good. That's what I'm like. I want to run through a wall through because it's just like, I'm so happy we have this DB room now. It is unbelievable.
And if you kind of think back to last year, Emmanuel Mosley, like us as Lions fans, we were so excited to kind of get him. And like, we're like, maybe what if he bounces back from this injury? What if he gets to be like the player that he was? And it really just speaks volumes to how much we've upgraded the secondary, because Emmanuel Mosley, like Jeff said, is kind of like an afterthought right now. And don't get me wrong, he's a great player, and the injuries have vastly affected him, but for him just to be a depth piece just shows how great our secondary has gotten and how much it's improved in, very little time. So,
yeah, you mentioned it, Boone, about the situation. That's it's very true with this situation, because a lot of corners, especially confident corners, they get drafted into a situation where they're asked immediately to be great, and their confidence gets shattered, and some guys just never get it back. I'm not saying Tarion's that type of player, but to be in a situation where he's kind of, I don't know how to, he's surrounded by just great veterans. He's insulated, I guess it would be kind of the right word, but not necessarily, because I think he'll be CB2. So he'll be out there. But just had to have Carlton Davis to learn from, or Emmanuel Mosley to learn from,
even
or
AG,
your defensive coordinator, who's also a really good corner, to learn from.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a great situation. I also want to get to Dan's comments on JMO. And this, I think even Mike, I know Mike's a big JMO guy. We're all big JMO guys, but Mike, he's been really a big JMO guy for a while here. And I'm going to pull this clip up, and it was Dan Campbell praising Jameson Williams. And this, to me, is the type of content I needed. All right, I need it. So let's hear Dan Campbell praise Jameson Williams coming into this offseason.
Come back.
Yeah, look, there again, all right, so we started this thing, back in April, and, you got phase 1 for a couple of weeks. Then we've been on the grass for 3 weeks in phase 2, which has been routes on air and fundamentals and individual and doing all this. And then we're 2 practices in. And if you said, give me one player that is the most improved from that start to finish in that time, J-Mo would be that guy right now. All right, he is a man on a mission, and I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, I'm going to leave.
Man on a mission, Mike.
Breakout year incoming.
How are we feeling? I mean, J-Mo, I think, a lot of people wonder, at least this offseason, what kind of player he can turn into. We all have faith he's the only first-round pick in that wide receiver room. We know the talent he has. We always compliment J-Mo on the show. But, Mike, what is it? I mean, you got a guy like Dan Campbell talking about this guy has been impressing and showing up.
I mean, honestly, it means a lot, not only because I want to see J-Mo succeed, but Dan Campbell always, even last year, when J-Mo wasn't up to par, he would kind of call him out on that, and you would see it in the press conferences. He wouldn't have the same reaction. To get a reaction like that, you can tell Dan Campbell isn't lying, just because on how critical he has been with him in the past. So that's the most exciting part of it for me. It's for real, and I think J-Mo is going to break out this year. And then J-Mo even acknowledged, I know we'll probably get to it later in the players' press conference, that he had a lot of growing up to do, and he's kind of more focused on football. So that's literally all you want to hear. You hear good things from J-Mo about him growing up, maturing, and then you hear great things from the coach about him, saying the man's on a mission. So like I said, J-Mo's breaking out this year.
Mm-hmm. Spot on. And you know what's the craziest thing to me is we talked about it a lot. Jameson Williams he was drafted 12th overall coming off of a knee injury, a major knee injury and surgery, and still drafted 12th overall. That's a man that has wide receiver 1 talent in this league, and he's just expected to be your wide receiver 2. The pressure, it's the same thing. Jeff is drafting a DB to a bad situation and sitting there saying, hey, we need you to produce instantly, like Jeff Okudah a couple years ago. It's just you're getting put back. No, J-Mo's in the best position that there is in the NFL right now, to where he has Amon-Ra St. Brown in front of him that has all the pressure of being a wide receiver 1 who's proven it. And now he can just be the wide receiver number 2. He can go out there. He doesn't have pressure to go out there and get 1,500 yards or 10 touchdowns. Just go out there and be Jameson Williams. Do what you need to do. And now on top of that, for him to let's take even less pressure off, guys. That man had a suspension last year. This offseason before, he was going through the knee surgery and the injury and recovering from that. And now this offseason, his first offseason, where he could just sit back and say, I can just focus on football. I know I'm going to be playing football this spring. I'm ready, or fall. I'm ready to roll. I have no other responsibilities besides this. No suspension, no injury, no nothing. It is all ball, and that's all I'm focused on. So, to me, for J-Mo, this is the least amount of pressure that you need for a guy with wide receiver 1 talent going into a football season. That much talent, just without a worry. And I think that's why, Dan, you see him having these improvements, being the most improved player so far in the spring. I think that's why you see it, is because he just his mind's clear, fellas. Imagine just doing something with a clear mind. He has nothing to worry about. All he needs to do is just go out there and be you. You don't need to get 1,500 yards. Just go play football. That'll happen on its own. And I think he knows that too now. He's realized that year 3 jump in the NFL is a real thing. And I think now that he's settled in, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, his start in the NFL has not been ideal. I mean, to that first season to have the ACL injury, not get the snaps he wanted. I get that. It's frustrating because he knows how good he is. But then the second year to be suspended, and then the team's playing well without him, and then he has to work his way into rotation, and guys are playing well above him. For someone like J-Mo, I'm excited. I think a fair expectation, I've been saying 800 yards because, and I'll tell you why. I think I've talked about it in the video I posted today, and I saw some comments why 800 yards? And you have to think, okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get 1,500 yards receiving, all right? Sam Laporta is going to get, I think he's 1,000-yard tight end. That's how good Sam Laporta is. So And you also have potentially 2,000-yard running backs. So we have to be kind of realistic here. Can J-Mo get 1,000 yards? It's 3,000-yard receivers and 2 almost 1,000-yard running backs. I would say no. So unless you want to say Sam Laporta gets 800 yards, maybe 800 yards, and then you're giving J-Mo 1,000 plus, then I can listen. Like that's fine. It's really pick your poison there. It's obviously we know Amon-Ra is going to get his. Then that's your argument. But to tell me like he's going to get 1,000, he's going to get 1,000. Also, J-Mo's going to get 1,000. Like we have to kind of relax here with that stuff. If he got 800 yards receiving, I would be very happy. I would be very happy. And I think that would to me would be just given the situation and how, because basically if you're counting Sam, because I would even count Sam Laporta guys as basically like a wide receiver. So he's going to get, he's kind of technically the third wide receiver. If you count Laporta, he's just a weapon. So, and then you have guys like, DPJ now, who's going to get some more targets this year. Khalif's always there. And you look at Jahmyr Gibbs and what he can be in the passing game. So, that to 800 yards for me is like, that's a good year. That's a good number 2, guys.
And two, like, I can't remember who said it on Twitter. I wish I could give the credit and kind of go. I can't remember who it was. But someone mentioned today, like they've seen J-Mo as one of the beat reporters about how you've seen J-Mo the last 2 years, and coming into today that he's looked the most confident he's ever looked out on the field. Like typically, you're running around, you're trying to figure out what's going on, the routes and everything. Maybe you don't have that confidence because you're just in the league, and you have to put in perspective that J-Mo hasn't had a ton of practice in the NFL with the injury and the suspension. And then when you get into the season, you're not sitting there doing training camp reps in the season. Like those are light practices. So like their reports are coming out that he's like that much more confident this year. He looks like he belongs out there and he's ready to go like a veteran. That's and Jeff, I'm with you. I would say the 800-yard mark to me is like I'm expecting that, to be honest. I'm just expect like go out there and get 700-800 yards. Like if you do that, I talk all the time about losing Josh Reynolds and kind of where you're replacing with that. That replaces Josh Reynolds times 2, because Josh Reynolds was getting 500, 600. You go out there and give me 800. Like I'm completely fine with that. And same having Laporta kind of get a couple extra there, and that's your offense, man, with Amon-Ra and Khalif and those guys, DPJ. I think that like I have a lot of confidence now. I told you guys last week.
Yeah,
told you guys last week. I just wanted to hear it.
I think 800 yards is fair, and that's like kind of spot on where he should be. But like, I'm not saying that he can't get 1,000, honestly, because you have a couple 100-yard games, 17-game season. He could very well get 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not really about that. It's really about just fitting into the offense and finding those plays that are going to benefit you. Like last year, like Booner said, we were kind of working some things out in the past game, his route tree, whatnot. I think he just gets better on routes, finds plays that fits his scheme, fits him, catching him in stride and whatnot. And then I think he'll be fine. It's really not about getting 1,000 yards, getting more than that. I think he'll have plenty of chances to get in the end zone, no matter if that's running the ball or catching the ball. I think 800 yards to 1,000 yards, anywhere in between there. It's just about fitting into the offense. And I think he's going to be miles ahead of what Josh Reynolds meant to this offense. And so that's really all that matters. He's going to fit that wide receiver 2 slot.
I would love to see
way
that.
better.
I would
Josh
love
Reynolds.
to see him take over that Josh Reynolds spot and be even better. That's what I'm
Gonna,
expecting.
it's not,
you know what?
He's going to.
That's
be
what I'm
than Josh
expecting.
Reynolds.
That's my expectation for Jameson Williams. Go double, maybe double, not double. Go be 10 times better than what Josh Reynolds did to this offense. Don't drop passes. Go out there and make the big plays. He's done it. Yeah, he might have dropped some passes as well last year. Go out there and dominate. Go be a legit. I tweeted it today. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo can be one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL. I'll die on that hill. Those ceilings, I will die on the hill.
And I want to get the narrative about drops kind of cleared up. I don't know where you guys are at with it. I think we're spoiled because we watch Amon-Ra St. Brown and he just doesn't drop anything, that we kind of expect that out of other players. J-Mo may never, and I would probably bet he will never have Amon-Ra's type of hands. But that doesn't mean that's a rare thing in the NFL to be that reliable to catch, majority of the targets thrown your way. Like there's things you just can't control. Drops are, but J-Mo's the type of player that if he has a drop, he can make up for it with a big play, so
and
I'm not as like obsessed with like
throws,
the drops as maybe some other people.
He did drop some passes, but Goff threw a lot of them short, which made them hard catches for him and whatnot. And he's underthrown him many times. And J-Mo might not have St. Brown's hands, but St. Brown doesn't have J-Mo's speed, and he can't do some of the things that J-Mo can too. So there's both ways to look at it.
Every wide receiver in the NFL has different intangibles. And like J-Mo, there's probably a small group, if not like, I could count on one hand of wide receivers in the NFL that can catch the ball like Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we've been, like you said, Jeff, we have been very lucky on the Detroit Lions to have Amon-Ra St. Brown to be very consistent and reliable. That just because like you can't criticize a guy like, and that was why it was tough a little bit, at least for me, with the Josh Reynolds stuff in the NFC Championship game, because that was a big game. You expect to make those catches, but like if you're drawing those plays up again, like if you want reliability in the NFC Championship game, then go at your most reliable receiver, Amon-Ra, so he doesn't drop those. And then like that's what, like, you're gonna have drops this year with J-Mo. That's just what it is. But hopefully that you limit them. Like you want to find every way to limit them, give them easier catches, all that. But I don't think there's going to even be a problem with that.
Yeah, it's also when you drop passes, because that matter.
Timing does matter.
Josh Reynolds was very reliable, and he dropped two of the biggest plays in this entire season, and now he's a drop artist. Like the guy's
he caught everything. I think it might have been Klotz and I or someone. It might have been one of us here. Like I think before the NFC Championship game, it might have been Klotz. I think we were on a show before the NFC Championship game the day before and mentioned how reliable and how we should go back and clip that actually. Like how reliable and how Josh Reynolds never drops passes, and then that happened and the whole narrative turned. Like that was like it's crazy.
It's the timing.
I would love to clip that. We need to go back.
Well, Dan Campbell also spoke about Hendon Hooker, and I wanted to, because the backup quarterback competition. I don't think
you just want to talk about Hendon Hooker, Jeff.
Interesting. You would clip this. Interesting. You would clip this, Jeff. Interesting. You would clip this.
Admit it. Come forward.
If he can't beat out Nate Sudfeld, something's wrong. Okay, that's where I'll start. Something's wrong.
What's going on?
Something's wrong. I need to rethink my entire existence. So let's hear Dan Campbell talk about what he expects out of Hendon Hooker.
He needs to take a step up. We need to feel like by the end of camp, this guy can run this offense. He's somebody we know that, man, we can play the game a certain way with him. We know he's gonna be able to process the information. He's gonna get us in the right play, and he's somebody that we can. Man, he's gonna keep the ship afloat. That's it. We don't need him to come in and win a game. You just want to feel like, all right. And so obviously he's gonna need to take another step up. The good news is, especially right now, he's getting a ton of reps. I mean, in the last 2 days, he's really getting all the second and third group because Sudfeld is limited. So. And that's a good thing. So we're just going to douse him with reps, and he's getting all of this. He's going to get a ton in training camp, and
what him mentioning the part where Nate Sudfeld's limited, and he's currently dealing with something. So Hendon gets this, all his reps, and Hendon Hooker already has his own reps. Is the best case scenario for him, considering of last year. He just had a rehab year and he wasn't able to participate and really be out there. So this is like this is technically like his rookie. No, I shouldn't say that because he's had a year of the playbook, but still,
it's playing wise. Yes. Playing wise.
Yeah. Playing wise. Like there's going to be times where he's like, oh shit, this is the NFL. Like, okay, here we go. Like I'm playing against guys that are pros and have to feed their families. Very different. And I am excited. There are going to be ups and downs, but the fact that Dan Campbell even acknowledges we just need him to be able to run this offense like that. That's in case there is Jared Goff does go down. We just don't want to feel like he's hurting the team. That's really what it comes. We don't need Hendon to go out there and wow everybody, but at least just don't hurt the team. So I love it. I think the Lions, in terms of having a backup quarterback, if Hendon Hooker can get those reps until the season, preseason, I'd feel pretty confident. Not that you want Jared ever. I mean, if he goes down, it's already a bad situation. Look at some of the teams that had backup quarterbacks in last year. Their season was essentially over. But it's nice to see him getting those reps. It's awesome.
Jeff, this is where, and I don't want, like, I'm gonna like, this is how can I phrase this without like being, because it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to phrase this being in a bad way, but like, this is where I was kind of having this conversation with some people a couple weeks and months ago with the Hendon Hooker thing and I brought up at the one point to where, hey, eventually when he does play, at that point, like say for some of the people who wanted Hendon Hooker this year, he didn't play a football game in over a year and a half. It's almost coming. It's going to be 2 years by the next time he actually plays in outside of the preseason, like an NFL snap. So that was where I had a feeling maybe this wasn't what was going to happen, to where he's struggling a little bit. But you knew a guy coming off an injury, a major knee injury, that hasn't played a football game in a year and a half, like he's not going to be what you expected him right away. And it's going to take time, especially in the NFL. Like, it's already hard enough for rookie quarterbacks and NFL college players coming to the NFL and dominating right away. Like, that's tough. You're going to see a lot of the rookie quarterbacks this year who were drafted in the first round struggle. So, like, for him to come in and now he's finally playing at a higher level where he's getting on the field, he's going to struggle. And to me, it kind of turns a little bit more so to, like, yeah, Jared Goff signed his contract. We need a backup quarterback that's reliable. So I want Hendon Hooker to get this stuff together, and hopefully by training camp and preseason, he is ready to go. He's gotten the number 2 and number 3 reps. He's gotten every rep he can, because you need a backup quarterback. You no longer have Teddy Bridgewater. You don't have that. You need someone back there that helping Jared Goff, to where if Jared goes down for a game or something happens, you have someone to fill in. So, like, now the tables have turned very fast with Hendon Hooker after today's reports, to where it's who cares about him starting and being the future. Just make sure you're ready to be a backup quarterback this year. So if something happens, we have you ready to go. Am I wrong on that? Was that bad? Is that bad to say?
No, it's not at all. And there will be some kinks for him to work out. And I think by when preseason's done, you'll be able to have like a full opinion on him kind of as you move forward. Jeff, that's what I wanted to ask you. I've been seeing that a lot in the chat. Trade bait? Is your guy trade bait?
No.
Not until at least next summer.
So. There's no way he's trade bait as of now, at least.
No, and here's the thing. Having a backup quarterback, I know some fans are obsessed with it. You know, it's like everyone loves the backup. I feel like that's just an NFL, like, inside. If you're an NFL fan, usually there's always this weird obsession with backup quarterbacks. But to be honest, it is very important because injuries happen. Even if Jared goes down for a game, 2 games, you know, whatever it is, you have to be confident that whoever's in, you have a chance. And we had to see the Tim Boyle show. You know, we had to see that show at one point, and it was very underwhelming. The Tim Boyle show, I did not tune back in. It was bad. It was
TB12, baby.
Nope. He was with Aaron Rodgers.
Honolulu Blue.
He was with Aaron Rodgers. No, I hate that. So we have to think, like, for Hendon, and when you have a roster like this, you have to keep a guy that you're confident in as a backup. So I don't think he's trade bait yet. You know, as time goes on, if Hendon says it has a meeting with Brad and goes, listen, like, I know I'm going to be a backup forever here, and I don't want to be. You know, maybe we can work something out to where I can go somewhere where I have a chance to play, and you guys are interested in maybe trading me for assets. We can work that out. That would be fine. But if Hendon Hooker's cool with being a backup, I'm not trading him. Like, keep him. You know, that at least have someone that could get you a game or maybe a quarter, 2 quarters. Like Nate Sudfeld is great guy, holds the clipboard, awesome. Oh my God, it's bad. He's so bad. So no, I don't want Nate Sudfeld out there. I don't.
No. You know what, too? Like, Doug put in there, Hooker can actually throw the long ball. I think Doug agreed kind of what I said before. But I think like that was something that got so overwhelmed with Lions fans that were all on the Hendon Hooker train a month ago before Jared Goff's contract came out. And then when Adam Schefter put that tweet out saying they're not even close to a deal, and then you have all these people taking a victory lap over Hendon Hooker. And now today you get reports that Hendon Hooker struggles at training camp. I think a lot of people took note, and the reason they wanted Hendon Hooker was because he can throw the long ball, and he could throw it deep, and he's got an arm. But then, hey, guess what? You're in the NFL. Everyone can throw the long ball. Maybe not as good, and maybe everyone doesn't have this as strong of an arm. But guess what? Everyone can make these passes. It's about leadership. It's about doing the small things. It's about everything that goes with winning. And Jared Goff has proven that. That was why when this Hendon Hooker information came up the last couple months, I was so against it. And people were like, Booner, what are you talking? No, like, now it kind of shows a little bit how hard this league is he's been out for a year and a half and he's coming back, and it's like, hey, he's missed some throws with no pads in 7-on-7. So you have to that's where I was so shook and shocked that Detroit Lions fans are sitting there asking for Jared Goff's job a month ago when Adam Schefter put that tweet out. It was ridiculous. Some people should be ashamed of themselves, to be honest.
Call them out, Boone. Who?
People should be, though, honestly. And people know who they are. You know who you are. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Watch the games. We just won 14 total games last year with Jared Goff, and you want a quarterback coming off a knee injury and his first day at camp that the reporters are there. He's struggling. No offense to Hendon Hooker. I'm a Hendon Hooker fan. I think he could be something one day.
Yeah. He just cooked.
It's just right now you have a veteran quarterback that wins football games and makes every pass.
Yeah. I
don't care if he throws a duck. That duck threw for the fourth highest yards in the league or whatever.
Yeah, and let's be very clear. If Jared Goff goes down, your season's over. All right. But if he's out for a game, let's say you're still trying to accomplish at the end of the day, at the end of the season, you want that 1 seed. I don't want Nate Sudfeld ever stepping out there, please. So I'll stand on that. So he's not getting traded this year. Maybe in the future, but we're not there yet. Dan Campbell also gave praise to Terrell Williams, who is the defensive line coach. AG and Dan Campbell both praised him. But here's Dan Campbell talking about Terrell Williams and what kind of impact he can make.
Terrell, who I got a lot of confidence in Terrell Williams, man, is our D-line coach. I think he really is. I think he's the best D-line coach in this league. And if he's not, you can argue what place he is. But man, he's been working with him, a ton of one-on-one, individual, and look, the kid wants it, he's working, and he's improving. And he's another guy, we just got to get him reps, and training camp's going to be pivotal for him with the pads on.
So a little bit of Broderick at the end there, but we'll get to it. AG also gave Broderick some praise and kind of said something similar, but I do think, here's what we have to understand, okay? Both things can be true. All right, I'm using that line here. Terrell Williams is the best defensive line coach in the league, if not one of the best. He's a veteran. He's developed defensive linemen, turned them into Pro Bowl caliber players. He is he is the best at his craft, or if not one of the best. That's one. And he could certainly help these guys reach the next level. Here's the other one. Here's B. All right, there's A, here's B. Here's the other part that can be true. There are question marks on the edge. All right. That's just the obvious part, right? Davenport staying healthy. And what does James Houston look like? Missing last season. Can he be a sack a game guy, which I think is a little unrealistic? He did it. I get it. But maybe more so a sack every couple games would be awesome. I would take that. But that's what I mean by both things can be true. I think people, I'm not going to name specific names, but I saw some people on X kind of, getting a little too excited about the Terrell Williams stuff, which he is incredible. But let's not forget, he can't fix you. It's hard. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Okay.
Yeah.
He can help Josh Pascal. He can give them all the tools, but they have to put it together. They have to do the work. He can't go on the field and accomplish personal goals for them. So that's where I'm at with it, guys. I think Terrell Williams is certainly going to help these players. But at the end of the day, it is up to Josh Pascal. It is up to, Davenport to not only stay healthy, but to be what he was in New Orleans, which was 9 sacks in 11 games, that type of player. And that's where I'm at with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. And one of the biggest things for me, I'm just curious to see how he schemes kind of DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil to kind of free up those edges, like you said. And then kind of like how you brought up the development of Broderick, the development of Pascal, and how Kaminsky does under him. It's just there's a lot of question marks regarding the defensive line. So I'm curious to see how much he can make them improve, because he does have some heavy hitters on there. But like you said, the edge is really missing that one other guy aside of Hutch. So if he can make some plays with DJ Reader and Aleem to kind of free up those guys on the edge, give them some space, then I don't know. But we'll have to see how much he helps these guys improve.
Yeah, and two, with the whole Terrell Williams thing, and what people need to realize, and AG said it, I don't remember if we clipped it for later in the show, so I'll say it now, and if we hear it again later, then it's just the cherry on top. But what AG said, essentially, what Terrell Williams is so good at is just helping out with techniques, going through the process of that, and developing these guys with their techniques. You can, he said, oh, well, you guys see there was a bug by me. But you like with Broderick Martin, he mentions it with Broderick Martin. Broderick made all of these decisions, to go out there and get in shape and kind of slim down and get better. But like, hey, when the pads get put on and you have to go out there and actually put a show on and have the technique to go out there and make a play. That's what Terrell Williams is good at helping out. So it's interesting to me, like a guy I think he can really help is a Josh Pascal, because Josh Pascal, we talk about it all the time. He has the body for this. He has everything it takes. It's just he hasn't been able to put it out on the field and actually do it. And I think that's where it might come down to the technique. And maybe our Terrell Williams is someone out there who's able to be like, hey, this is what you need to do to kind of take that next step. And same with maybe a Marcus Davenport, where we've seen him do it. He can help him even better. Now, outside of Hutch on that other edge spot, that's, Jeff, to your point, where it gets a little questionable. You can't tell me that like you're confident with this edge room if you start comparing it around to other edge rooms in the NFL, like putting up Davenport and Matthew Betts and Kamish, like putting them up against different edge rooms out there. Like compare some other like the 49ers. Go look at their edge room compared to the Lions. Night and day difference a little bit. So like I think he's gonna find a way to get something out of these guys, and especially like some younger guys like Mekhi Wingo. And Broderick Martin. I think those are guys who are going to benefit a lot, but I think it's just more so. I'm with you on that. The edge thing there is a question mark on the other side. Like, I think you would be lying if you think there's not. I honestly, I think it would just be more so of like I just want to say that that's a question. Like if you were going to rank positional groups on this Detroit Lions team and what needs to get improved and what's worst to best, number one would probably be the defensive edge. Edge room. Like that's number one right now. And then and you can go from there, but to act like there's no depth or there's depth there and there's no, that's just wrong. So I think Terrell Williams will be able to help them, but there's just so much you can bring out of some guys that just aren't at that level. Like I do think like a Kamish maybe will get help from it, but like you just have the Kamish and Davenport over there. Who else do you have? James Houston's one actually that I think might be able to benefit a little bit. I'm going to be honest. Oh yeah. And I do think that's a big one as well. I just don't think it's like you're not going to look at other edge rooms and say, all right, grade all of them. You're not giving the Detroit Lions an A+. No, you're probably giving them like a C+, B-, and the B- is because of Aiden Hutchinson. And then you're saying, and Aleem. Well, my bad. Not the whole defense line. I mean, like edge groups. Oh, okay. Like, are you going to like what grade are you going to give them? I'll probably give them a B-, and Terrell Williams can take them to a B+, A-. But you want to get to an A+ because your interior has the potential to get to an A+. In my opinion.
Booner, can you confirm or deny this question?
I would think he is. I did hear today, and I don't know if this is true. I was watching the heavyweights. Shout out to heavyweights. I do think maybe, and the heavyweights are Matthew Betts guys. Did not know that. I'll have to reach out to them and have that conversation. But I did hear maybe Matthew Betts was taking number one snaps on the defense line. I could be wrong. I could be way wrong.
But Antoine Green took number one snaps too.
I know, but that's what I mean. He's out there making those snaps. I mean, I'm talking about making the team here. If you're out there taking those snaps,
yeah, but that you know what that is? Throw him in the fire and see if throw him in the deep end, see if he swims.
Yeah, you're gonna learn quick. I think training camp will have a better idea. Like these guys, the offense and defensive line, we can't sit here and say how good these guys are until training camp. Like Dan and AG both said it today. We're not going to evaluate the defense and offensive line on their play until they put pads on. So you've got months until then. So no one sit here and tell me that you have faith in this edge group until training camp and we see it on the field when the pads are on. Thank you. End of story.
Well, AG has faith in the new DBs, all the new corners they brought in. They, meaning Brad Holmes in the front office, did a great job this offseason, free agency, trading, getting Carlton Davis. And the draft. So let's hear AG on the cornerback competition and who they got in that room.
Well, listen, I mean, it's no surprise that the new guys that we got, they excel in playing man coverage. Something that we want to do here on defense, something that we've always wanted to do, and something we'll continue to look at. I mean, obviously, we'll have our zone defense that we'll be able to play, but we're going to try to do everything we can to put these guys in position to what they do well. So, Terrion, Rakestraw, CD, Meek, like all those guys, and even the guys that we had here, man, they've done a hell of a job this offseason working on that man coverage. So we'll have a good variety of what we want to do as far as coverage.
Just philosophically, why is that so important to you to be able to see somebody's face?
Man, it's smothering when it comes to defense, and that's who I am as a coach. I like to smother the offense.
Well, AG, and I've stuck up for AG in the past because I think he's a good coordinator. You look at Ben Johnson, he is like I don't know if this is disrespectful, but he's not a head coach yet, but he is like a mini Shanahan. That's like that type of coach. That's what I would compare Ben to. But you got to understand though, Ben has a lot of tools to work with. Ben has some toys, right? I mean, we'll pause on that. It sounded weird, but he has a quarterback. Jared Goff, he's got the best offensive line. He's got the best running back duo. He's got Amon-Ra, and he's helped develop these guys. Don't get me wrong. But even me as a huge Ben Johnson guy, I understand like the tools he has. It's great. Now for AG, it's always hard to it's always been hard to kind of grade him because it just seemed like you have Kindle Vildor starting at corner. It's like, how are we going to evaluate this guy? I mean, it's just, to me, it was like complicated. And then Aleem McNeil till last year, it was like, oh, and then Aleem had a breakout year. So I'm excited. We always say, right, this is the year AG's got more tools. And I think he's going to make the most of them. The players love him. Carlton Davis complimented him today as well. But I'm excited, guys. I think AG is going to show you, and we always talk about the defense is the biggest question mark on this roster. All right. Yeah. In terms of offensively, they're going to be top 5. Defensively, they got to get up there in scoring defense, sacks, turnovers, all that stuff. But I think AG can do it. You got him more ingredients. Let's see if he can make a gourmet meal here.
Yeah. Go on. There's no more excuses for AG after this point. Obviously, you went out and you got 4 corners. You made adjustments to the defensive line. You got some more guys out there. You got to go out there and prove. If this team wants to win a Super Bowl, this defense needs to be top 10, top 12 minimum. And that's just facts. So I think AG will take that next step. And Jeff, like you said, he hasn't really had the pieces, but now you got all the guys you want. You went out and you got 4 corners this offseason. You got 2 guys from free agency. You drafted 2 with your first 2 picks. So there's really no more excuses for him. He needs to go out and show why he has been considered for head coaching jobs and whatnot. He needs to go out there and show why he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. You got the pieces. Go out and do it now.
I'm looking at this year. It sounds weird. I'm looking at it as like year 1 for AG. Like the last 2 years, I know like the offense got built up. I think we're at a point now to where we can say they finally built up this defense. If you look at Aiden Hutchinson, he's going into year 3. Time for Aiden Hutchinson to take a jump from 11.5 sacks, go up there and compete for Defensive Player of the Year. You have a Defensive Player of the Year candidate now. Jack Campbell last year, he's going from year 1 to year 2. You're going to see later the confidence he has. He's going to go from here to here and have a chance to compete for a Pro Bowl, in my opinion. You look at the secondary, like these guys they've brought in are finally to where the point to where AG is like, okay, I have my dudes in the building. This is this is like you have a full defense now. This is year 1 for you. Let's see what you do with it. Like this is the real test for AG. Can you put a defense out there that's going to play good football? Like Kirby Joseph in the back, he's going into year 3. Ify Malafanu year 3. Like these guys are going into these years, or year 4 potentially. I can't remember, but like these guys are going into those years to where it's time to take that next step. And now you have dudes that have been in the system, they're ready to play, and you have Carlton Davis, a Pro Bowler that you've traded for. You have now 2 rookie corners that are going to be supposed to be elite, and you're supposed to go out there and teach them and put them in the right positions to be successful. Brian Branch, potential all-pro safety. Like you have the pieces now to do it. DJ Reader, Aleem, like dude, I keep missing guys. You have the pieces now. There's no excuse going forward. I don't even care about that other edge side. Like that's not going to make a difference with the amount of pieces you have on this defense now. And that's just the way it is now. So you have the pieces to go out there and make it happen. Now you need to see like a significant increase. There's no reason this year for the Detroit Lions defense to be outside the top 20. 0 reason. If it's outside the top 15, there's a problem. Yeah. And then that to me, like last year I caught a little bit of flack because early in the season I said, oh, like what's AG doing? Like all I wanted him to do was change the scheme, start sending more blitz, start sending pressure, because it was obvious they didn't have the players to do it. He did it, and it was successful. This year, there's nothing. Like you like this is the year to where it's like AG. If that defense isn't top 15, that we do have a problem because you have all of the players. You've brought. It's not like you've just brought. You've brought all these players up and you've taught them yourself. So it's like it's on the line. And like to me, the Super Bowl runs through this defense now. You know what the offense can do. The Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions runs through this Detroit Lions Aaron Glenn defense. That's where it ends. That's where it stops. If that defense whoever put it in the chat there, puts up or shut up, that's how you win a Lombardi.
Yes. And I think what helps AG as well is the experience he has on his defense. That is something, it was a very young defense, which as a defensive coordinator, it's hard because you're teaching, but also you're expecting these guys to get it. And that's why having a guy like Anzalone is very valuable because he just knows he's a veteran. Now you have Carlton Davis, who's a veteran, who knows, and he just gets it. There's things that, of course, he's going to learn. Carlton, every player is always going to continue to learn. But at the same breath, it's like Carlton Davis, you just know you can trust him. You just go out there and do your job, Carlton. I don't have to sit there and babysit you kind of thing. And that's what AG, I feel like, has been kind of going through these last couple. Now, Hutchinson, he's like a third year. He's getting comfortable.
Veteran. Yeah, lock him in. Him and Aleem and DJ Reader, those are veterans on the defensive line.
Yeah.
I think that's like Carlton Davis type veteran. He's put up the numbers. Take that step now.
Yeah, you don't worry about him, So that's a real thing. Well, I'll take a free TV at Target, Am I going to hate on it? AG also complimented some players, Jack Campbell, Davenport, and Broderick. Let's start with what he said about Jack Campbell, because I know, Boone, you've been giving Jack Campbell some love here for a while.
Pro Bowler.
Yep. So let's hear what AG said about Jack Campbell.
Let me tell you, first off, he's a man. He's a grown man. And he's really taking control of this offseason the way he should take control of it. He's a true Mike backer. He's a guy that lives, breathes green dot mentality as a Mike backer. And he's done a really good job of actually, and all our guys have, just transforming their body because they've had a true offseason in the NFL. So he's done a good job with that. And then just watching him on the field, his zone drops, his mentality as far as going after the football has been outstanding. We only had 2 days of practice, and he's been doing a heck of a job. And just the way that he's leading the men as far as defense is impressive to see.
How confident are you that James Houston can come?
Well, that listen, I think in that last part was kind of funny.
That was me. My bad.
But I will.
Me.
I will say though on Jack Campbell, I think he should be your best linebacker this year. I know Lukas is a little higher on Anzalone. He's not that he's not high on Jack Campbell. He just thinks Anzalone's still going to be that guy, and I think Anzalone's still a good player.
Yeah.
But you drafted this guy in the first round. I think it's time, right? The first year, he's understanding the defensive schemes. He's getting used to the NFL speed, guarding NFL, legit NFL players. And now it's like, okay, now it's more reactionary, less thinking. Everything's just happening, and he's just reacting to it. So
slowing down.
Yeah, it's slowing down. So I got big expectations for Jack Campbell, Boone. I do.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm shocked, actually. I'll talk to Lukas about this. I'm a little shocked that he's not a bigger on Jack Campbell, because it feels like, to me, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like it's like the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery situation, to where we know how good David Montgomery actually is. He's not a bad running back in the league, really good running back in the league. But you just have that guy behind you who you picked in the first round who's got a higher ceiling than you, and his ceiling's way up there. And it feels like it's the same thing for Jack Campbell. It's just not like Jack Campbell's skills and his size and everything he can do. We're gonna listen to him later. It's his mindset. That man is just he's a football guy. Just loves the game of football. And I think this year, I'm gonna say it now, and I'll die on this hill. He ends up leading the Detroit Lions in tackles this year by a little bit of a good margin, I think. And I think he ends up playing in the Pro Bowl. And it might be as an alternative or whatever, but I think Jack Campbell this year takes that big step. And you're going to sit there and go, okay, now we have the fact that we have Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. This linebacking core is one of the best in the league right now. And you're going to eventually have to pay Jack Campbell. I think it's going to come down to that. And it's interesting, guys. I want to know what you guys think on this. AG talking about the green dot. Jack's he's a Mike Lot. That's his position. And that's where he's going to be best at. And if the longer you wait to put him there, and with Anzo or the whole Derek Barnes, you're holding his ceiling down. And you have to get him in the position you drafted him for. And that's where he's going to be successful at. And giving him that green dot and letting him control this defense. And It's like, what's that one saying from the other guys? Like, I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. You got to let the man go out there and be what he's about, dude. Jack Campbell should be an all-pro, Pro Bowler linebacker the next year or two. But as long as you keep him out of his position, you're going to keep pulling them back. And I hope AG realizes it at some point. But I think he's going to be one of the best in the league. I truly do. I'm a Jack Campbell fan.
Hey, A+ reference, by the way. Other guys, great
Thank
movie,
you.
amazing movie. But yeah, I'm with you. Let's get to Davenport. AG on Davenport, and then AG talking about projects. So we'll get to Davenport here because I think that's interesting. It's always a fun conversation having just a convo about his upside and what he can be. So here's AG on Marcus Davenport, who they signed this offseason.
Very confident. I know that player. I know what he brings to the table. He's a big man. He's a man that can rush. He's a man that's very violent, the way that we want to play. I'm excited to really see that player get on the field.
And there you go. Marcus Davenport, to be fair, okay, even though I am a little skeptical if he could stay healthy, it's not about his ability. I'm not saying he's a bad player. It's just I am worried about staying healthy. And if he can, especially given it is a contract year, it's a contract. It's a type of deal to where it's like, hey, go ball out, and you'll get paid somewhere. So he has a lot of incentive to go out there and play and show why he's still that player in New Orleans that had that season, 9 sacks, 11 games. But he's, like AG said, he said it in the when talking about Davenport, he's violent, he's big, he's going to affect plays in the line of scrimmage, and he's somebody that could play the run as well. He's not bad against the run. He's not a liability out there. He's a giant human being. So, and like Brent said, maybe a new scenery can help Davenport, and we'll find out.
Yeah, and he does have some familiarity with, obviously AG and all. I'm not expecting too much out of him, but if him and James Houston can be a 1-2 punch, then that works with me. The biggest thing for Davenport, Jeff, like you said, is staying healthy. If he can go out there and get the reps, I think he can produce somewhat. As long as he's taking some eyes off of Hutch, taking some guys off of Hutch, freeing up the middle a little bit for those guys. And then when James Houston comes in, he brings that energy. That's fine. I'm not expecting too much out of Davenport, but like you said, he does have some incentive to play well this year for himself, really moving forward. So maybe we will get the best out of Davenport. And like Brent said, maybe the new scenery with some familiar faces around it will help him.
Yeah, what I think too, and this is what I go like trying to think about the health situation, because that's all it comes down to. Like he could play football. We know that. It's if he could stay healthy. And I think the best thing about like this defensive edge group outside of Aiden Hutchinson, it's like by committee on that other side. And I don't know where you guys are at on this. It just feels like to me like that committee from last year to this year had a pretty good improvement, in my opinion, with that edge group. Like last year you had the commish, Charles Harris, James Houston went down, so you didn't have James Houston and the Aquara brothers. So and you brought in Bruce Irvin for a little bit. Like that committee last year on the other side of Hutch wasn't the best. And I think if Marcus Davenport stays healthy, the committee over there of Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, and James Houston, to where maybe that helps Davenport not, have to play that many snaps so he can stay healthy and he doesn't get injured. And same with the James Houston coming off an injury and taking a lot less pressure off of John Kaminsky. I think it ends up working out for Marcus Davenport. And like AG, maybe for him, yeah, maybe changing scenery helps, but maybe finding a familiar face in that room with AG to be able to look at him and be like, hey, like, yeah, we need you to stay. Like his best season he had was in New Orleans. Every good season he's had has been in New Orleans. So now he's like with the familiar face where he can look AG in the eyes and be like, I'm ready to go. Like, trust me with this. And like, they have that kind of connection. So I think it's actually going to be a way better rotation. And remember, guys, that was all I asked for last October. I said, get rid of the guys, go get rid of the Aquara brothers and Charles Harris, and just give me a new rotation over there. I know it's not the best.
He's better than those guys, though, when healthy.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's better.
And I think Kamish, I said it last year, like the Kamish at points was expected to be that like number one outside of Aiden Hutchinson on the other side.
Yeah.
That's not his game. And when you put him in a position he's not comfortable with, 2 years ago, he was like that second, third rotation, like he's going to be this year, and he dominated. So like, and James Houston's back. So I don't know. I think that Davenport being in this rotation of guys with the commish and James Houston, like I think a lot of people are going to overlook it because of the injuries. That might help him stay healthy at the end of the day.
Well, I do think it'll help him that you have James Houston as well, who those two can kind of share snaps. Because like John's, it's not necessarily about who starts. It's about snaps. How many snaps are these players getting? And I think with James Houston, he's going to get his snaps, but also Davenport's going to get snaps. But I think kind of putting him, I don't want to say like a snap count, but when you have James Houston, you could it kind of goes back to the insulation thing I was talking about. You get to kind of insulate Davenport. He doesn't have to play a boatload of snaps to where it's like you're wearing him down. You know, he can kind of share snaps with James Houston, and James Houston has a lot of talent. So they complement each other very well, I think.
Yeah, I think we get caught up all the time with some of these guys that we hear them and we want a guy that's going to give us 10 sacks. I think we get caught up in that really like too much a little bit. And like remember, like we had the conversation about the commish like a couple months ago, and like some people were like, "Oh, we should cut him." It's like, no, put him in a rotation. Like, we don't. Like, what are we talking about here? Like that's unrealistic. Put him in a rotation and let him be great. And I think it's the same thing with Davenport. It's he's going to give you something if he stays healthy. Like that man had 9 sacks in 11 games last year. Played in 4 games and had 2.5, maybe I think it was, or 2 sacks. Like he's getting half a sack a game when he's healthy. Now, that's elite production. It's just limit his snaps and let him produce.
Yeah, I'm with you. The biggest question to me is just being healthy. That's the only thing. That's the only skepticism I have about Marcus Davenport. It's not about the player. It's not about what his impact can be. It's just, can he stay healthy? And I think the Lions are going to do their best to try and keep him as healthy as they can. Broderick Martin was also mentioned by AG. We talk about the photos and how the big fella ain't looking like he's a big fella, but more slimmer big fella. All right. I don't know if he's not Gio Manu. I won't go that far. All right. Because I always say with Gio Manu, you can't be 6'8", 350 with no gut. He's a specimen. Now, Broderick, he's like 6'5", 3 something, but he is slimmer. You know, I don't know how it's crazy. He's got a incredible work ethic. It seems like, I mean, from watching him, if you lose that amount of weight and you get in shape, you're obviously locked in. Now, the other thing is just, what does he look like when pads are on? So here's AG on Broderick Martin.
NFL defensive lineman. Listen, I know there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of guys asking, well, how's he improved? We don't have pads on, you know, so when you're in your underwear, it's not telling anybody anything. The thing that we do know is the mentality is there. So since the mentality is there, now let's see if that's going to actually happen when training camp comes. So you guys will hear exactly what you need to hear once the pads come on.
There you go. And he echoed basically what I just said there, right? Mentality's right, fellas. We just got to see if the ability fits the mentality.
I like how you said that.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously the mentality of the locker room is kind of rubbed off on him, and I think it will continue. I mean, I'm still not expecting too much out of Broderick. I think this will be another year of growth from him. Maybe later on in the season, we'll sprinkle him in there. But I still think he's just got to learn how to fit his position well, grow up and to be an NFL player. It's all just about development right now for him.
I wouldn't be shocked, guys. Gentry, it's a little off from you, but it's a little similar. But I wouldn't be shocked as outside of DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil that Broderick's that next guy.
I think so too, but I just don't think it will be so like early on. I think as the season goes on, he'll be sprinkled in more and he'll have more of an impact. I just don't think right off rip you're going to see him swapped in for those guys and doing as much. I still think he has a lot to grow, and maybe training camp and preseason will help that. And I could be wrong, but I still think we'll see the better of Broderick later on in the season or mid-season.
Yeah. So for me, it's just more so like, they drafted him out of Western Kentucky. Obviously, he didn't play the talent that he is now, but like you obviously have the size and the ability and the talent to kind of do it, and that's why they drafted you. And I think now that he's gotten into shape and he's taking this seriously and he has the mindset, like AG said, I think as soon as you hit that and then working with Terrell Williams and getting the technique down, it just in my head, like as soon as you get it, like you're gonna know training camp whether he's going to have it or not. And if he has it, I think it's just instantly he's in the rotation. Like I think like we're going to know with Broderick right away, because now that he's in shape and he has a mindset and he's working with Terrell, like that development's been like, that was a question mark before we saw all these pictures. And before these guys, like these coaches are talking about him, was can he get into shape and can he be ready to be NFL ready? And I think now that we see that he has, and he has a coaching staff now to do that, it's like, to me, you get hit training camp. Can he do it? If he can't, all right, maybe we can back off a little bit on him. But like, I don't know. That just could be me because like he's going up against the best offensive line every day in the NFL now. And he did all last year too. So I think it's about, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked come the start of the season if you see Broderick a lot in the game and he's kind of taken over. Who else would Josh Levi, like those guys, like hey guys, sorry about this.
Hey,
but
don't forget
Jeff,
about
what's
Makai
happening to
Lingo.
Josh?
Makai, I'm starting to think, and this is something I actually texted Doc about it today. Asked him about Makai because I want to know if he's taking edge snaps, and he said like there was really not much out of him yet or any of the defensive line because they don't have pads on, so they didn't really the linemen don't really show much. So I think if Makai is kind of switching back and forth, Levi, Doc said yesterday maybe Levi ends up getting cut because Broderick kind of took that next step. Maybe. I know he plays like the DJ Reader position, but
I
like
think that's real. I think
when you
that's
start
real.
slimming down this room, all right, who is it gone? Because Broderick, he has the talent and now he's in shape and he's ready to go. You're not going to hold a guy like that back.
I'm very curious when they get pads on. The cornerback room is my favorite competition to watch. I think my second is this defensive line room. I think we all can agree. Just because of the amount of guys they have, they're kind of in the same tier. Like you have your guaranteed starters. Aiden's going to start. Aleem. DJ Reader when healthy. But like Davenport. But like you said, there's going to be times where they rotate some guys, and who goes in? How many snaps does Josh Pascal get? How many snaps does Broderick Martin get, if any? Where does he align with all this? Is DJ Reader ready by the season? I would assume, but like, let's say there's a setback. Who plays nose tackle? Is it Broderick? Like there's so many storylines. I'm excited to kind of figure out
here. That's why
the
OTAs tease you a little bit.
Yeah, and that's we're flirting with it. Training camp is where it gets real, and I can't wait. Jeff says as Jeff's third, the wide receiver room. Jeff to Jeff, you are correct.
Yes,
I would say wide receiver.
Corner.
Absolutely.
D-line, wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yeah, no question. Let's get to AG talking about how important sacks are because, it's something that I discussed here on this show and I made a video about just looking back the last decade and where teams ranked in the NFL in sacks when they won Super Bowls. And I mentioned it's not everything is not sacks. That's not what I meant. But what I meant is when you have your quarterback playing at a high level and you have the head coach, you have those two things right. And you have a defense, turnovers matter. Booner, you brought that up. You're absolutely correct. Turning the ball over matters, but sacks, getting after the opposing quarterback, especially when you're facing elite level competition at quarterback, you got to be able to disrupt plays. You got to be able to make them feel uncomfortable. You got to sacks and drives. They just do. So they're important. So let's listen to AG. Now I'm talking about just sacks and what he expects this year.
Listen, everybody wants sacks. And listen, we have a guy that's going to do a heck of a job no matter what the situation is. And I'm talking about Hutch. He's going to get his numbers just because of who he is. The thing that we want to make sure we do is make sure we try to get other guys to get those numbers too. I feel like we have one of the best, if not the best, D-line coach in the league. He's going to do a hell of a job being able to help the technique part of how you're able to do that. So, listen, we all want sacks, and you're right. I mean, sacks doesn't really just state exactly like how good you are as a defense. You look at Hutch, I think he was up there as far as pressures. The thing is we want to make sure those pressures turn into sacks for him. We want to do that across the board with everybody that we have. So there's going to be some guys going to have to step up in that area.
Yeah, and he's right. Back. Right, pressures. I used to go at it with Sam a lot about pressures. It's not that I thought pressures were meaningless. They matter. Like they do. Getting pressures, quarterback hits, they matter. I think quarterback hits, they definitely affect the quarterback more. But pressures are definitely valuable. I want to make that very clear.
Yep.
But even AG admitted, like you want those pressures to turn into sacks. Like that's what even Aiden would admit. But again, he didn't have much help last year, so that's
the biggest thing with that.
Yeah. I think AG was spot on there. Boom. He was.
Yeah, consistent pressure from other places outside of Aiden Hutchinson will turn into sacks. That's my whole opinion on that. You just need pressure from everywhere. It can't be Aiden getting all the pressures, being the only one getting to the quarterback, and then from time to time, miscellaneous guys getting to the cornerback. It's got to be, you got to have constant pressure from everyone on that defensive line. It can't be one dude.
So that's the thing with the Hutch thing last year, Jeff, and I get you the argument with Flannel about the pressures, but I never took that away from Hutch, because if you put Hutch on a lot of different defensive line groups throughout the NFL and he was getting those pressures, he probably would have had more sacks as well. And that group as a whole would have had more sacks. It was just, to me, it was more so the group and who was on that defensive line with him that was kind of not helping him out. So this year, that's where I think that step comes with the Terrell Williams, kind of emphasizing that with these guys. It's, hey, we have a guy probably the best in the league. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that the pressure stat from Hutch was like top 5, not all time, but in like the last 20 years or so. I can't remember the exact
it was
stat.
insane.
Yeah. So like, okay, we have one of the best in the league, maybe in the NFL in the last 20 seasons at getting to the quarterback and putting pressure on the quarterback. How do we take advantage of that? That's how they have to look at it. They can't look at it like, oh, Hutch is just going to. No, you have to look at it as you have one of the best in the league at getting to the quarterback right now, probably top 3 when it comes to pressures consistently. How do we take advantage of having that guy on our defensive line? That's what these other guys need to be thinking about. Terrell Williams needs to be emphasizing. Like, we need to get sacks, because that sacks ends drives. It's like a sack is not as good as a turnover, obviously, but a sack is like as close to a turnover as you can get. Like, those end drives, especially like a 3rd down sack when you know it's a pass play, 3rd and 10, and you push them back 3rd and 20. Like, those are essentially like secondary turnovers. You need to finish those. And if you have a guy getting that many pressures and you're still 20 something in the league in sacks, that's a problem. So like, that's what you kind of need is that step needs to be taken this year, like big time. That needs to be the emphasis of this defense, is turnovers is always in the secondary and getting to the quarterback and finishing the job. That's what it needs to be. And shout out to you too, Jeff, because you did do that. You had that graphic a couple days ago, and as soon as I was watching this, I had to clip it right away. I was like, AG, I don't know who asked the question. They must watch the show, whoever the reporter was, because that was the exact question in the conversation that we had on our show 2 days ago.
Yeah, and it is important. I know, just having the conversation. And AG said it correctly. And I said that too. I reiterated it in the video and reiterated it now. It's like, it's not everything, and what up, Klotzy?
Oh, fellas, how are we?
Was that a fake? Was that a fake, yo?
I'm just relieved. I feel much better now. Locked myself out.
Can
the
you
fucking
explain the
car.
backstory? What happened?
I was at the gas station. I was like, you know what? I got like 20 minutes to kill before the show. I was like, I know tomorrow morning I'm not going to want to get up and go to the gym and get gas before. I was like, you know what? Be productive. Set myself up for success tomorrow. Go get gas. I'll get gas so I don't got to do it tomorrow.
It's fair.
Brutal.
Pull the keys out the ignition, and I'm like, fuck it. I'll lock it. I'm going inside. And then I don't know what I was thinking. I then tossed my keys on my car seat, and then I shut the door, and I can just see it closing in slow motion. Like, no. And I'm like 2 minutes away from my fucking house, but I can't leave. Man. Like, I'm not in an area where I can just leave my car sit there for 3 hours.
How'd you get it open?
No, I had to wait for the fucking AAA to show up.
Mm-hmm. The damn shit.
The worst.
No,
I literally did that at Jeff's house in AAA, or it was like a holiday or something, so I couldn't get my keys for like 3 days. So I literally left my keys in my car locked at Jeff's house for like a whole weekend.
I ain't doing that here.
Dude, I told Gentry
all my fucking windows would be smashed out, everything would be gone. I had my computer in there.
In there, man.
A year ago, dude, 1 week I locked my keys in my car 3 times in 1 week. It was one of the most wild experiences of my life. I was in the UP for one of them. I was going up for a wedding, and I stopped at a gas station. I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like about to do it in my pants, and I had to run inside. And I came back outside. I just bought some snacks, so confident. I'm like, here we go, road trip's on. Keys locked in the car, middle of nowhere, no clue where I was.
Jesus. Yeah, the only time I've ever locked my keys in my car, it was in either my driveway or in the street. So like, I've gotten pretty lucky. I haven't locked it like in the somewhere random. That's a tough situation.
Locking the keys in the car has to be like a bottom 5 experience.
Yeah, it's just you
I hate it.
You just look like an idiot. Everybody's just like, at least you think in your head like you think everybody knows.
You were at the gas pump too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like I'm holding up
north.
Pump.
Mine was a gas pump too. All the people pulling in to get gas. Like, I can't move my car. Sorry.
And it's not the friendliest gas station either. So I'm just sitting outside the car, just waiting.
Have you guys? By the way, really off topic though. when I locked my keys in my car, the person next to me at the gas pump drove away with the pump in their car and ripped it off.
No.
I've never seen that happen. And it was just like locked my keys in my car and someone just drove away with the pump. And I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Dude, that's yeah, I'll never do that. Well,
that was the first time I saw it.
It's wild. Well, Klotzy, to catch
not paying attention.
To catch you up, Klotzy, we went through AG's comments, Dan Campbell's comments. You entered at the perfect time because we're going to get to some of the players now.
Big time comments here, brother.
J-Mo, Carlton Davis, and Jack Campbell. So let's start with J-Mo. They asked J-Mo about his personal goals for this season, and he answered. So let's check out what he said.
I love this, too, by the way. This makes me want to run through a wall. I love this man, dude.
Absolute dog. Check it out.
I just want to win, you know. We done won last year without me doing anything, so I ain't got no goals of doing nothing but just winning.
What's your reaction when you see JG, Amon-Ra get those long-term contracts? They're taken care of now for the long-term future.
Me next.
He said, "Me next."
That man he doesn't care about stats either. That man does not care about stats. I love J-Mo. He does not care about stats.
Because he knows if he plays his role and he does his job, it doesn't mean stats all the time. If he plays his role and does his job and he fits in on this offense, he'll get paid. So
and it means Super Bowl. That's all that matters.
I love. I know it kind of seems like he's like playing it off a little bit just so he can like avoid the smoke. But I love just the self-awareness to be like, I didn't do anything last year. We made it to the NFC Championship game, and obviously he did, especially in the playoffs. Like he had an impact, especially late in the season too. So it's great to see him just be humble, look himself in the mirror, and not be like, oh, you know what, I've been in a tough situation. It kind of sucks, the situation I've been put through. He's like, no, like it's time. It's time. I haven't done anything yet. It's time to prove what I'm worth.
What he knows is he has Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson they're going to win football games and have a good offense with or without Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams can help that get to a different level, but that does, you know what I mean? So like that doesn't mean anything, but J-Mo could take it to a different level, but they could still win without him. And I think like that's, like you said, Klotzy, and Jeff put it in the chat there. It's self-awareness, and he knows it, and he wants to be great, and he's going to, provide whatever he needs to do to help win, which I love. Like the self-awareness, and I love that.
I think self-awareness is so important for anybody willing to have any type of success. Yeah, you have to be self-aware, and J-Mo clearly is. And shout out to the doc. I saw the doc over there asking, what a dog. We love the doc.
One's in, Unk.
Yep. Yeah, the Podfather. Yeah, the Podfather, Unk, and whatever you want to call him. Legend, absolute legend. Yeah, I'm with you guys. His self-awareness is mature. I know that's a big thing that was like thrown around his rookie year, it seemed like. And second year, it's like his immaturity and all this stuff. It's like, no, dude, he had every right to be a douchebag right there and just be like, yeah, I know what kind of player I am and I expect to do. Like, no, he's just like, I just want to win, dude. That's all I want to do. I want to win, whether I make a significant impact or just an impact. I want to win. And that's why he's a Detroit Lion, ladies and gentlemen.
It's that culture that Dan Campbell built.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right.
Culture.
And he also mentioned how he has the benefit of going up against, he was asked this about Carlton Davis. And Carlton said it in his press conference that, hey, I'm excited for J-Mo. I know what kind of talent he has. I love going against him. He also mentioned, which I mentioned a lot about J-Mo, is it's not just the speed. He's like, he can stop on a dime. He's a great route runner. Like there's things in J-Mo's game. I said like the hands might not be Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is fine, but J-Mo's more than just like a John Ross, one of those. It's like a one-trick
John
pony.
Ross got signed today, I think, by the way.
Yeah, to the
Eagles, I believe, too, Boone.
Yeah.
Once I heard that name, I was like, whoa, wait a second. John
Is
Ross?
he back?
He's
That's
back,
their
baby.
Watkins replacement. They always make some like that.
By the way.
Yeah, like Julio.
I think I saw Kenny Pickett was like beating out Jalen Hurts and had better OTAs than Jalen Hurts.
It got deleted.
Did it? Okay, I was just checking.
I got and I'm in my group chat from Toledo. My one buddy sent it in there, and it got deleted like 5 minutes.
I was like, when I got the alert, I was so shook.
There's better chance of hell freezing over than Kenny Pickett walking into the Philadelphia Eagles locker room and taking the QB1 spot. It doesn't matter.
That is
Jalen Hurts could still be recovering from that knee injury from last year, and Kenny Pickett still couldn't hold his jock strap. Not a chance.
That's
the most. Trying to think of like another player, because Jadeveon Clowney definitely was up there, but he still had success. A player's career built off of one play in college. Like if that fake slide doesn't happen, Kenny Pickett is not a first-round pick.
Yeah, well, Tyler, I locked myself in a car. It took me 2 hours to find a way out. I was high as fuck.
I didn't even like. I did it like 3 months ago too at the park when I was running the one day, and I didn't know until I got back from my run, and I was just dying.
I'm trying to think of that scenario. You're just in your car, keys are right there, and you're like, dude, I'm locked in. You're just absolutely fraud. Oh, I love. All right, let's get to J-Mo talking about Carlton Davis, and then we'll get to Carlton Davis. So here's Jameson Williams.
It's only been 3 days. I'm going against him every single time. It's been good work. He real good on the press. You know, I really haven't got any good press. Nobody like the press, but when he press, it's good, real good work. And even his feet, how he plays, everything, his patience, the whole way he plays his game is just it's good. I like going against him. I went against him a couple times in the last 3 days. This whole week, it was good work both ways.
Always makes everybody better. The cream always rises to the top, no matter what. And it's great competition. That's what we want, right? We play football, we play a competitive sport, and we want to push each other, man. We want great competition in there. We want to become the best versions of ourselves. So it's exciting.
What do you think you bring to the table? I know we asked you that when you came here, but now that you're on the field, you've seen the scheme a little bit, how you fit into it. What do you think you bring?
I mean, I'm about to just lock shit up. You know, excuse my French, but I'm about to lock number one receivers up, get my hands on some balls, get the ball back to our offense, and play physical, and bring the energy. And you'll see.
Two dogs.
Dog.
Carlton.
I'm a Carlton Davis fan. I'm in. All in on Carlton Davis.
Guy,
I'm all in.
I think he believes he can lock down Jesus. That's what I'm at with Carlton Davis. I think he has that
confidence.
And not just him. Look at the cornerback room. Trajan Arnold. He came right at his first, I think it was his first press conference where he's speaking to the media. He's like, I want to have a gold jacket. You know, that's where, winning's important. I don't want to take it all out of context, but he's not selfish or anything. But he did mention, I want to be that dude. And I just think this cornerback room, dude, is just filled. It's oozing confidence. And Carlton Davis, I mentioned it when we do the top 10 players. He was on my top 10 list. And one thing I said about Carlton is he's like a borderline top 10 corner when he's playing when he's locked in, I guess would be the right word, but not even that. Like in Tampa, look at some of the years he's had in Tampa and look at when they won a Super Bowl. He's just a very underrated player. And the Lions fans should be so excited to have someone like Carlton, who you just know, all right, Carlton, go guard Justin Jefferson, go guard Keenan Allen, go guard, Christian Watson, whoever you need him to guard, he's going to do it. And he's going to hold his own. I'm not asking him to shut. I know he said shut down, which I love, but it's in today's NFL, it's hard to do that. But at least make these guys earn it. Yeah, confidence is everything, especially playing corner.
With Carlton too, and him coming from the Bucks, I think is a massive deal. I think people underrate it because they asked him as well, hey, being in Detroit, what does this mean? And kind of coming into a team with the Super Bowl. And he was like, I haven't been on a team like this. And obviously he's only been on the Bucks, but the feeling that he said he's feeling is in 2020 when the Bucks won the Super Bowl. And now that he has that behind him, knowing that he's chasing another Super Bowl, he's got the confidence. And now they have this room that's absolutely, we talked about it early in the show. This corner room's taking a whole turn, and it is an absolutely stacked corner room where these guys are going to be competing all off season, and they're just going to make each other better. And the fact Carlton Davis is just I'm locking everyone up. I think Brad Holmes setting this room up for success. AG should be able to have a field day with these guys. No excuse going forward with this corner room. I'm in on Carlton Davis. I got the text messages from my Bucks guys that said he's good. Top 10. Jeff, you think he's top 10? He's talking like he is right now. And you guys know I love a Sauce Gardner type. Go out there and talk and be confident. I'm all in on this man. Give me Carlton Davis. I'm all in. He's my CB1.
That mentality he has and that confidence he has is only going to boil down to the young guys, not that Trajan Arnold, Dennis Rakestraw, and these guys don't have, and Meek Robinson don't have tons of confidence in their game going forward. But this is just going to make them better. Seeing a cornerback one have all that confidence really just change the mentality of kind of what was a sorry cornerback room last year. And I think with him, obviously, guarding Jameson Williams and them getting those reps together, iron sharpens iron. It's only going to make Jameson Williams better facing that type of competition at cornerback and OTAs and training camp and practice, whenever. It's only going to make J-Mo better. We are lucky to finally have a cornerback one like Carlton Davis.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a dog, too. I mean, he fits Aaron Glenn's scheme perfectly as a man-to-man corner, but you even look to Booner's point when he's on the Buccaneers. This man was drafted in 2018. So you think about the receivers that he was facing in the NFC South during that time. Julio was killing it, especially Julio was pretty much Julio until 2020. So 2018, 2019, Carlton's rookie year and sophomore year, he was going up against him twice a year. DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Kelvin Ridley. That experience going over to this defense, this scheme with the other DBs in this room, it's going to transition great for the Lions. And he's a guy that, to your point, Jeff, when he's out there on Justin Jefferson is still going to get his. But instead of Justin Jefferson getting 150 yards, can he get 80? And I think that's something that Carlton Davis will do, and that's going to be extremely valuable to get to the Super Bowl for the Lions.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, Klotz, just about AG and how he finally has some veterans on this defense that, like, with young players, you're teaching and you're at the same time expecting them to just kind of be there, be where they're supposed to be. But with veterans like Carlton Davis, who's won a Super Bowl, he's played on big stages. Like, yeah, there's always learning for all players. That's why AG, with his experience, but like, he could just be like, Carlton, just go out there and handle business. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Carlton will just go handle business. And I think to have a guy like Carlton Davis in that room for Terrion, for Ennis, like you guys brought up, it is so amazing. Honestly, they're lucky to have a guy like Carlton Davis. And he's such a selfless guy. Like, when I watched the press conference earlier and watched him, I didn't even think, like, man, I thought, yeah, he's a good player, but I thought, man, his humility, like, he's just a good dude. Like, he gave credit to JMO. He loves AG. You know,
Terrion Arnold and his
the Lions as a situation reminds him of 2020 with the Bucs. It's a great thing, by the way, you know, when they had Tom Brady, but that type of like aura with the organization, like we're trying to chase a Super Bowl here, you know, and that's what this roster is. He loves the roster, and they need a guy like Carlton. They just need some stability at cornerback one. They need some sort of stability. Cam Sutton, I don't know if you want to say he was hurt, cool. That was the opposite of stability. All right. That was instability with his play. So I'm glad Carlton Davis.
Thank
God the Lions have him.
The best part too, I just love like him knowing that he's a vet. Like they asked him throughout this interview, like, does it feel weird? Like, now you're the vet in this room, and like he embraces it. And the fact, like, there's this battle in the DB room, and I love the quote he says is, the cream always rises. Like, yeah, like, you're gonna get the best players out of this. Like, typically, if you don't have a stacked room and you're not competing, anyone just gets a job. Like, whoever, like, anyone's gonna get a job, even if you're not good. Like, no, the cream's gonna rise, and it's gonna be iron sharpens iron, and like everything good comes out of this, which is like, I don't even know. I'm in shock right now the way that Brad Holmes reworked this whole CB room, man. It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, and I want to get to this video kind of transition a little bit. I think we all agree that Carlton Davis, I'm excited for the year. Contract year too. Don't forget, contract year. Yeah, Carlton, he sees what the corners are getting paid. So
just want to throw it out there. This is my favorite video coming up of the whole day.
Okay.
I'm pumped.
Well, I'm excited. Okay. I'll let Booner cook here. Here's Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell taking some responsibility. I don't know if he deserves it or not, but to hear the man, that's maturity. All right, that's growth, personal growth. Let's hear Jack Campbell talk about what he learned from last year making the playoffs.
It was just the last play of the 49ers game, just because, like, my family knows it because, like, they are connected to me, and, like, I talk to them on a daily basis. But, like, the amount of sacrifice it takes from, like, the whole team to get to that point, and then, like, some guys, like, I remember Germ, like, vividly telling me, like, I've been in the NFL for 7 years, and I haven't even, like, played in one playoff game. So just having that experience in playoffs is just important, but getting into that next level of the Super Bowl and then winning the Super Bowl, like, that's what everyone's here to do. And I feel like that's honestly probably what eats at me the most my first year, just kind of having that not stripped away from me, but just that opportunity was right there, and I feel like I was part of the problem and getting us over that next game. So that's probably what eats at me the most.
That hurt that man to say.
Man, you don't tell. First of all, boys, accountability, selflessness, like, that is what you want out of a teammate and a football player. Like, Jack Campbell is going to be one of the best linebackers in the NFL soon. Him, like, he wanted to cry
at the end, but that's what
he put his head
down. Like, he was in pain.
He put his head down, like, man, like, Jack Campbell, all he wants to do is bring a Super Bowl to the city of Detroit, and he will do everything in his power, anyone in his way, to go and do it. And that's right there, guys. The last 2 months, 3 months, why I've been so high on Jack Campbell, it's because of what's up there and his mindset. And a lot of these guys are starting to learn that in this football team, like Jameson Williams being selfless, like all of these guys. And Jack Campbell coming out and saying what he did there, I think like these guys are motivated ever to go win a Super Bowl. Like I love this football team so much, and to hear a guy like Jack Campbell, who I think could be an all-pro linebacker, to come out there and almost cry and being emotional about losing an NFC Championship game. It was a rookie season, and he says, "I was part of the problem." This is like the guys that Brad Holmes draft that are just on a different level. Andrew Jones this man is just special. He is a different type of human, different type of football player, and you have a lot of them on your football team. I'm a Jack Campbell guy. This man's going to be, and what AG said about him earlier today about how he's going to most likely ends up getting the green dot in the next year or so. Like, this guy is going to take a big step. Klotzy, I'm sorry you missed that. You got to go back and watch it because your Anzo things, Jack Campbell's coming for him.
Hey, it'd be something I'd be happy with, Boone. It's just Anzo's a guy that I think is also going to improve. But I mean, seeing Jack say that, they're saying in the chat, but this is where I think you'll see, and I agree with it. I've said this multiple times, that this is Chris Spielman written all over it. To have Chris Spielman, a Detroit Lions legend of a linebacker, in there, and Jack Campbell, like, I guarantee Chris Spielman is just in Jack Campbell's ear all the time, telling him whether it's good or bad. It's just criticism. I guarantee Jack knows exactly what he needs to be doing with the guy like Alex Anzalone in there. Look, like a guy like Kelvin Shepherd coaching him up. We saw what Kelvin Shepherd did with Malcolm Rodriguez and Derek Barnes over the course of his career. Jack Campbell is going to be a stud. Booner, I agree with you. There's most likely Jack Campbell will take over that green dot. I just think it's one of those things where people write off Anzo a little bit, but to your point, he's so fucking talented, dude. He's so talented that
Jack.
Jack. I mean, he's just so athletic. He's so big, and you can just see he's a guy that when he leaves practice, he takes a shower, he eats, and he turns on film, goes to bed, repeat. That's what Jack Campbell does.
And before the other guys go, real quick,
fucking huge. Like, he looks like he's aged a little bit. Looks like he's grown up, but he looks even bigger than last year. Like, he's put in the work, man. So I'm excited. He's going to be a future star. But go on, Booner.
Klotzy, I threw it out when you were earlier in the show. We were talking about Jack because AG talked about him. I said I'm surprised that you're not kind of on this thing as well, because it reminds me a little bit of the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery ceiling conversation, to where Jahmyr Gibbs has this ceiling and D-Mont, we know he's a great running back, but he's like here, and you're on the Jahmyr Gibbs like that. I think it's a similar where, like, we know what Anzo can be and what he can, like, his ceiling's here, but it's a great linebacker. Jack Campbell's like, he's up here, and if he hits that, it's different. It's a different level. It's hard to compete with.
As far as intangibles, Booner, I'm 100% with you. The thing where I push back is I think Alex Anzalone is probably one of the top 3 smartest football players on that team. As far as
agreed.
How he adjusts the defensive line, I think pre-snap is where to get that green dot is extremely important, just because of what it represents, and that's where I think Jack has to get more time on the field with.
Wait till Jack gets that, though.
Then I'm with you 1,000%. That's why it's just with the Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs thing. I feel like that's a completely different type of situation. Anzo's pretty much the quarterback out there. That makes sense.
Once you hear AG comments today, I don't know if you've heard it yet. Throughout the day, you're gonna switch quick, because AG said like he's turned into that Mike guy who's controlling the defense.
I'm all for it.
Today, the comments today, I almost broke my computer.
You're just over. Hey, I love it, Boone. I love it. I love Jack Campbell.
And I had too much energy.
And I think, just to add to this real quick, for Jack Campbell, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's like a distant memory now that they've lost. I just try to forget about it. It's like a bad experience. You just got to get rid of it. I don't know how much of the blame you'd put on Jack, but I'm not saying he played his best game, but I do appreciate the accountability. All right. I respect accountability in any player. So for Jack Campbell, go out there. Sorry, Lucas, be their best linebacker, kick Anzalone to the curb. All right. Not literally. Okay. Not literally. He can play.
I'm fine with that.
But and I like Anzalone. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but Jack Campbell, he's a first-round pick, man. Buckus Award winner. Go out there and take that green dot, and I think he will. And he's going to be the franchise linebacker. Boone, you got Pro Bowl expectations, so we'll see. I think he's going
to be an all-pro linebacker. All-pro. I don't know about this year. I think this year maybe you could say Pro Bowl, but I
Yep.
think future, like this is going to be your all pro. Like I'm not going to say it. No, just all pro.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Fred Warner does, as far as just flying around the field, intangible wise, there's nothing that Fred Warner can do that I think Jack Campbell won't be able to. Now, making big plays in clutch moments, I think that's something that's just in a player's DNA. So I don't know if Jack Campbell can do that. I'm not saying he can't, but I just think if you look at those two, there's a lot of similarities.
Well, I told you guys we were going to get to it. The Detroit Pistons.
No.
Yep. They hired their new president of basketball operations.
Woo!
Now the former New Orleans Pelicans GM, Trajan Langdon, is now the president of basketball. Stop that. No, stop that. I'm not going to lie to you. I at just first glance, I shared my thoughts today on a video. I like the person. All right. I think he is a smart guy. You know, he's got an extensive European playing overseas background. You know, he's from Duke. I think he played with JJ Redick, I believe. I could be wrong on that. I think he did play with JJ. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. We're going to welcome in Sean Murphy, though, to discuss it. And then I'll kind of give my thoughts afterwards. But please welcome to the show the man I'm just blessed to be able to do a basketball podcast with once a week. And you can check that out from Half Court. It's linked in our channel. And that is Mr. Sean Murphy. Welcome to the show, Sean. How you doing today?
Boys, Jeff, Booner, Mike, it's good to see you all. I'm doing great. Of course, the one night I had plans this week is when the Pistons decided to drop this news literally right as I had to leave. So I thought that was pretty funny, but no, in all seriousness, excited to, talk about next steps, talk a bit about the hire, and yeah, big off season coming.
So, Sean, I think it's obvious, like Tim Connolly was like the Christmas present you wanted. But again, the Timberwolves advancing made it difficult because you're not going to continue to wait with the draft coming up. So they had to make a decision. They felt like Langdon was the best hire. And here's the thing I want to ask you. One, your thoughts on the hire. Okay. And what he can bring to the Pistons, your confidence in him. Two, okay, here's where the kicker comes in. You're great at handling these tough questions. As a player, his agent was Arn Tellem. Could you give
all right,
kind of
I want to
background
stop you
with
right
that?
there. The Arn Tellem stuff is way overblown from a bullshit Mike Valenti segment that he did a little over a year ago, where he came out and tore Arn Tellem a new one. If you want to blame anybody in the Pistons organization, you have to blame Tom Gores for not clearly setting the hierarchy of who was running basketball operations. Of all the different voices of too many cooks in the kitchen, that's on ownership. Also, if you want to just wind down on candidates who are not connected to Arn Tellem, there goes about half the league, because Arn Tellem is one of the best agents in the history of sports. So I'm not here to just defend Arn Tellem. I just think there's this narrative brewing that's just simply not true, and it comes from a pretty unreliable source. And I feel pretty comfortable saying that publicly. So, for me, I think the hire makes a lot of sense if you actually look at his resume. He is a guy who's, been rising up the ranks over the years. He is a guy who, who's worked, alongside, like Greg Popovich and the Spurs. He was in the Brooklyn Nets, from 2015 to 2019, when specifically they had to put together that team of players when they didn't even have their own draft picks from the Boston Celtics trades. And that's when they put together the D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, multiple guys who have made all-star appearances, who have been very good NBA players. And that's the ultimate situation of taking chicken and turning it into chicken salad, because they had nothing. They didn't have their own picks. They pretty much had second rounders, late first rounders, pick swaps. They had the worst of every situation. And then in New Orleans, he was able to help put together a competitive roster around Zion Williamson. Now, look, obviously, I understand why people hear the Arn Tellem thing and they make those red flags, because it is, you do see the correlation of players that have been drafted, of connections, things like that. I get it. But if you look at his resume, there's a lot of reasons to believe that he is a legitimate candidate for the position. And if he wasn't going to get a job with the Pistons, he was going to be running a team somewhere eventually, because he's been regarded as one of the up and coming, next executives. So for me, I just want to reserve judgment ultimately, because it's really hard to ultimately know what, what he's going to do before he comes out It sets the vision, but also, let's be honest, an executive position is a lot more behind closed doors than a head coach or, getting players. Like with a resume on a head coach, you can see what they've done, right? So I think if you look at what is out there, the information we do have, I think the hire makes a lot of sense. But again, it's going to come down to, taking the situation that they have right now and putting good players around what they have, because they need to turn it around in yesterday.
Agreed.
Yeah, I 100%. And Sean, I want to ask you this. I think this is the elephant in the room when it comes to this this new position here. Is obviously Monty and Troy Weaver and where their jobs stand. And right before we actually started our show, that report came out. I believe it was from The Athletic that said the Pistons are going to actually they're going to consider moving on from Monty Williams and taking the $60 million hit and saying, we're just going to move on. Where do you stand on that? Do you think he comes in and says, hey, Troy, Monty, we're doing a fresh restart. This is my project now. I'm going to come in and I'm going to build this thing from the ground up. Or do you think he sits down and at least keeps one of them? What do you think he does here?
Yeah. So, this isn't reporting, just speculation, but I would expect, the one thing we do know is over the next few days, he's going to be meeting with them both and discussing, just like what that future of working together could look like. That's, pretty standard stuff. But what we do know is Tom Gores is giving him the autonomy to make that decision. Now, I think for, a guy like Troy Weaver, I think that's a more, kind of a more natural writing on the wall situation where there's a reason why they're hiring a, basketball of operations, person in the first place. And so as good of drafting as he's done, I could see a world where he is, where he's kept on because of his ability to draft and maybe combine that with Langdon's ability to craft a roster. But ultimately, I think he's probably going to bring in the person that he wants to bring in to run that position. Now with Monty, that's more of a tricky thing. Tom Gores is willing to eat that salary. That's been reported not only today, but that's been, pretty widely known over the last month or so. And so it's one of those things where if he wants to make that decision, he definitely has the ability to do so. But the thing is, you would really have to have candidates, identified, there, in the background, right? And you'd have to do it quickly too, because it is, the Cavaliers just fired their coach. Charles Lee, who was actually the runner-up last year, actually got hired by the Hornets about a week ago. So there's still there's solid candidates out there. One guy I really like is James Borrega. He was actually the old coach of the Hornets, and now he's the assistant with I believe the New Orleans Pelicans. He actually took like a Hornets roster that was not very good and consistently made them way better than they actually were. And then ever since he was out and Steve Clifford's came in, they've fallen off a cliff. So to me, someone like that would make a lot of sense. Having said that, I think there's a lot of incentive, almost kind of similar to the Sean Payton, Russell Wilson situation. There's almost an incentive to try and make that work because of how much you have invested in that hire. But ultimately, I see the Pistons eventually making a change in that position if nothing changes within the next year or two. So I think the general manager is a lot more of a cut and dry, more than likely they will move on. Head coach, I'd say it's 50-50.
And Sean, how much, I don't know if we even asked you this. Do you want Brandon Ingram, and how much does him coming over from New Orleans help our chances to maybe acquiring a Brandon Ingram?
Yeah, so that's certainly the connection that's been brought up, over the last couple of hours. Trajan Langdon, being the general manager from the Pelicans, Brandon Ingram being someone who's going to be on the trading market. I think he fits everything that the Pistons need, and I think he makes a lot of sense. I mean, for one, he was the number 2 overall pick in the draft for a reason back in the day. The guy's a certified bucket getter. I think ultimately the fit around a Cade Cunningham would be more natural than his fit around Zion Williamson, seeing that he could have someone, from the playmaking standpoint who can set him up. He, kind of have more opportunity to have the ball in his hands. And also on top of that, when you are a team like Detroit and you don't really have the opportunity to go out and get certified, all-stars or high-level starter players, I think you have to take those opportunities when they come up. So I definitely think he's a name that makes sense. I do think there's going to be a competitive market for him this summer. I could see, the Sacramento Kings are in a rush. They have to be better. The Orlando Magic feel pretty dang good about where they're at. And he would make a lot of sense for them as well. So I would definitely say there will be a market for him, but having Trajan Langdon definitely, that connection definitely helps, right? I mean, we even saw, how much have we talked about that infamous Lions Rams trade with Brad Holmes and in the relationships he had with the Rams front office? That I'm sure that helped. So, not saying it will, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And Sean, obviously the Pistons, they damn near have nowhere to go but up. And in your opinion, in your time watching this team try to rebuild, what do you think is the most logical first step for this roster as far as acquiring somebody, trading somebody? What is the most logical first step in your opinion for the Pistons to head in the right direction?
If they had the luxury of time, the logical first step would be to acquire assets, use the salary cap space they have to trade on, like less desirable contracts, to acquire picks and to try and play the long game. However, I don't think the Pistons necessarily have the full luxury of time. So I think when you talk about the natural, kind of like first steps for what he's going to do, I mean, there's the two routes, obviously, there's the $65 million that they have to spend in free agency. But I think on top of that, I think he's going to have to, really take a long look at the core pieces they have and decide who ultimately fits that vision. And again, it's hard to say because his vision might not be the same that the Pistons have had over the last few years. We don't necessarily know yet what those next directions could be. But, if you want to go and get, significant talent, the most desirable pieces to trade are probably some of those young pieces. So I think, that those are going to be some of those first steps, but also I think it's really going to depend on what you do at the head coaching spot as well. Like, do you bring in someone, who's more of like a proven veteran coach, who wants to try and like make this team competitive and win now? Or do they do what, in my opinion, they probably should have done last year and get a guy who's either like a first time head coach or has some head coaching experience who can grow alongside this team? So I think ultimately you just have to really take a step back, take an honest look at where things are, and, really just start reaching for a higher standard, because especially in this modern NBA, there's no longer an incentive to tank. If we've seen anything over the last few years with the way the lottery odds have changed, the Pistons have had the best odds for the number one overall pick 2 years in a row. And they've fallen to 5 2 years in a row. And in the last 5 years, the New Orleans Pelicans won the lottery when they had 6% chance to do so. And the Atlanta Hawks, who were in the play-in tournament about a month ago, got the number one pick in this year's draft. So it doesn't necessarily behoove them to continue to be in the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Go win games. You can still, even if you're in the lottery, you can still rise up if you do well. And so honestly, to me, that's the next step, is to put that competitive roster on the court and to really set the standard.
And Sean, to kind of talk a little about the NBA draft, and you look at Langdon, his background as a scout with the Spurs. We know the Spurs and their obsession with some really, really good Hall of Fame caliber European players. But in his time, Langdon spent overseas, all over the world. And now you look at the Pistons, and they're going to pick 5th overall. And you look at where the NBA is heading with all the European talent. I mean, you're watching it now with Luka and Jokic, who just got eliminated, but still all this European talent and the influx coming into the NBA. What kind of benefit do you think Langdon brings to the Pistons, kind of having that, the European side of things? Because I do think that's something that in the future, you got to be, the relationships, especially overseas, are going to matter. And if you can identify good players from overseas, it's going to matter, Sean. It's where the NBA is heading. You and I know that.
Yeah, 100%. And having someone who's knowledgeable of those systems, knowing what leagues are for real, what leagues are not, being able to identify players that have those traits that can transfer over to the NBA, I definitely think is going to be, a crucial trait for him to have. But, I also think, he's going to really have to have a hard conversation and look, are they going to have to trade that pick, at number 5 overall, what is the goal, the expectation for that pick this year? But having said that, I mean, I think you're just going to have to be a lot more creative as a whole of where you're finding players, because it's no longer just, the best guy from college is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Like you've mentioned, I mean, just multiple years in a row, we've had multiple guys in the top of the draft, who either played in Europe, who played in Australia, who played in the G League Ignite. There's a lot of different routes that people take. So, to your point, having those connections and having that experience, overseas is definitely a thing that's helpful. But I mean, his drafting record as a whole, around the margins is really impressive. I mean, the Pistons could use more guys like Herb Jones, which if you don't know who that is, he's pretty much like one of the best defensive players in the world. I believe he was first team all defense this year. He was a guy that Trajan Langdon, was able to identify. And, that's just one of the players he was able to get that fits that bill.
And Joe, we're going to get to some member mailbag. We got some questions from the chat here, and you feel free to answer. We'll start with Coach Walk 37. Shout out Coach Walk. He says, mailbag, do you trade Ivy in the 5th pick of the draft for a solid vet? What would you do, Sean?
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely think it's something that you have to, entertain and see what's available and out there. I think the really difficult thing that, that the Pistons have faced over the years, and, just the tough thing about giving up on any young prospect at all is, essentially what could happen if they turn out to be awesome when you make that move. And Jaden Ivey is someone who's had those flashes of really good play, but it's really been up and down. It's been really streaky. And, you almost wonder with the way that it was handled by Monty Williams this last season, if a fresh start could potentially benefit him. So I think of the young players, unfortunately, I think he's probably the most likely to be moved when you just talk about a fit standpoint. You just talk about just kind of where he's at in his development and just his overall, just upside. But at the same time, you have to be careful about which players you are having those conversations with. And I think with the 5th pick, with where this draft is at, I still don't really know what that value necessarily is. Essentially, the way I've heard this draft be described this year is if you were to take any draft class and chop off those premier stars at the top that are like surefire players, and then just start at like 4 or 5, like it's like if Onyeka Okongwu was the first pick of the draft. And half of you are saying, who the is Onyeka Okongwu? And to that I say,
I was lost,
exactly.
Sean. You lost me.
Yeah. That went over Lucas. That went over Lucas's head there. That's not good, Lucas. It's not good.
Yep.
I'll tell you that ain't good.
Yeah. If you're like, who the heck is that? My answer is exactly. So that's about where it's at.
Well, Alan W asked mailbag, who do you think has more potential to lead this team, Cade or Ivy? Asking because there's been a lot of debates in the fan base.
I mean, to me, if you're talking about, if you're having to pick between one of the two, respectfully, it's unequivocally Cade. If you look at the things that he was able to put together, especially, as the season progressed, but you talk about the leadership intangibles as well, his overall frame, he's played really good basketball when he's been healthy, and the numbers he's been able to produce without around him is something that's, worth building around. So I think you look at, and you look at the other teams that are, that are succeeding, that, that are deep in the playoffs right now. They all like their star players. A lot of them fit the archetype of a Cade Cunningham, right? Like a Luka Doncic, a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like Tyrese Halliburton. Cade Cunningham shares a lot of the traits and qualities of those guys. And I think if you put a competitive roster around him, I think you can really see what he can do. I mean, this is a guy who's been, been raved about for, ever since he's come into the league. When he was at USA, USA scrimmages last year, like he was the talk of the entire gym. If the Pistons actually put some shooters and defenders around him, he would be getting more talk than he did.
Yeah, agreed. Anakin asked this question: are the Pistons going to tear down everything and just take the Lions approach?
I personally don't think they have to tear down everything, but I think around the margins, they certainly are going to have to make a ton of changes. I mean, they changed about half of the roster at the trade deadline last season. And even then, like pretty much the majority of those guys they brought in, I don't know if they're necessarily even going to be here. So I think you identify the pieces that you have that you really like, that you really believe in, and then you go from there. Because if you trade a Cade Cunningham, you're just essentially getting those assets with the hopes to one day go get another Cade Cunningham, right?
Yeah.
And he's still so young. You would literally just be signing him to his rookie extension. So I just don't understand the concept of moving them all right now. I really think if you put a couple solid veterans and, give a full season of a guy like Fontecchio, who played really good hoops for them, if Quentin Grimes can come in and be the defender that we've seen him be in New York, like, I honestly think this roster can be more competitive than people think. But again, I mean, that's the importance of having help.
Yeah, I agree, Sean. And it's kind of the tough conversation. I see a lot of people always, I see it thrown around, not often, but it's like the trade Cade stuff. It's like, guys, I get it's bad, but I don't want to.
No one should trade Cade. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's bad, but he's
the reason you have hope. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the light at the end of, that's like the glimmer in the dark alley. You know what I mean? Like, the Pistons didn't have the number 1 overall pick for 50 years before getting Cade Cunningham. And even when they did, they didn't have a draft lottery system. So they've only won the lottery one time. You take that and run, especially when you're able to get a prospect of that type of caliber, because the Atlanta Hawks, I'm sorry to say, are not going to have that type of luck at the top of this year's draft. They wish they could get a guy like Cade Cunningham, but no, I honestly think, there's a lot of legitimate pieces that of a solid foundation. It's everything around the margins. I mean, someone just said it in here, like brought up like a Derek Lively, I think you look at teams like even like Dallas, for example, and a lot of people look at the duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and yes, those guys are magic. But the reason why the Mavericks are where they are is because of the players they put around them. It's PJ Washington, it's Derek Lively. It's those role players that are, able to take those responsibilities and those things that, quite frankly, the Pistons just don't have anyone capable of. I mean, Asar Thompson was our best defensive player last year, and he was a rookie.
Yeah, I know it, and I see some comments in here that are just cracking me up. Like, these people, and to your point about the Mavericks thing, Sean, because we've talked about it too, and the thing that really you see how it works with Kyrie and Luka. You're right. It's about what's around them. It also helps that Kyrie and Luka do fit like really well, because I think Kyrie, even though he's a point guard, he's really a 2 guard, because he could score the ball at will. He's a 50-40-90 guy. It's what he had this year percentage wise. So, and Luka's just a specimen. So you're right. But the reason why they went and got PJs, to your point, is putting valuable role players around those guys. So
yeah, and as good as the Minnesota Timberwolves have been too, like as awesome as Anthony Edwards is, the real stars of that team, the real thing that makes it go is guys like Jaden McDaniels, guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, just those wings who are just suffocating and wouldn't let Jamal Murray even get past half court. So, the stars are, are the fuel that starts the fire, but that's the gasoline that makes it explode.
Yeah, and too, it's impossible. I hate this too from Pistons fans. It's impossible to judge Cade Cunningham until he gets role players and a team around him that can actually help him do that. It's impossible. You can't judge a guy. I mean, he's averaging 22 points a game without that. Now give him that and see what happens. I think it's a different level. Whether you think he's a 1 or a 2, it's having a guy like that on your roster and in your franchise is what you need to have to be successful in this league.
He was top 5 in usage in the NBA in the pick and roll last year, coming off of a year off because of injury, and with a super young team and guys that, just couldn't consistently put the bucket, the ball in the bucket. Like, he was, like, with all due respect, his one of his most reliable shooters to end the season was Evan Fournier.
Mm-hmm.
Let him
Evan Fournier hasn't been playable for almost 3 years.
Jesus.
So
fine run in Orlando.
I was at the one game against the Heat where Bam hit the game winner, but Evan Fournier was balling that game.
Yeah, that was like his one night where it was like, all right, this is the Fournier 4A, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean,
it's coming out party.
Or who could forget the Malachi Flynn 50-point game? I think the most confusing game in NBA history. And then he was like, I don't think this was a fluke. And then he went like 0 for 10 the next game.
It's like a mini Jeremy Lin situation. Like
basketball is just such a funny sport. It's like if
crazy.
Jeremy Lin only had one night.
Yeah.
One night only.
Yeah, it's just the league, though. Like, it's just where the league's trending. It's offensive. It's where all sports leagues are trending. Professional leagues, it's just offensive leagues. And with that comes random, 40, 50-point games from players that they just get 50 and then you don't really hear from them. I mean, that happens. And when you're in a situation like Malachi Flynn was, yeah, you're taking a lot of fucking shots.
Oh, you're letting that baby fly. You don't know. You don't even know if you're going to be on a roster next season. You go, hey, let's go. I got the rock. I ain't talking Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, it will. Oh, Sean, we love you, man. We appreciate you.
Man.
Love you guys too. Thanks for having me, man. For real.
Yeah,
always. Ton, Sean.
Always breaking down the new president of basketball operations for us.
Go
Mr.
Blue.
Sean Murphy. Check him out and at From Half Court. It's on our it's in our channel. You can also just search it on YouTube, From Half Court. We post every single week. Until next time, I'll catch you, Sean. All right, boys. We got about 4 minutes left.
One last Pistons comment?
Yeah.
Sell the team.
We're fucked. We are
no.
fucked. Now that Sean's not here, we had to get that out. We're fucked.
Sell the team.
We are fucked.
Gentry's hitting the red button.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boys, my allergies are going fucking crazy.
I mean, I hit the red button last year. I said that we were going under 23 wins or whatever it was, or 27 wins. And
I just can't believe that it was 16 years since we've won a playoff game or something. Was that the stat? 16 seasons, 16 years.
Okay.
Wow. Now you're in a new rebuild. We just started a new rebuild today. Welcome to the 8th rebuild in 16 years. Can't wait. So excited. Another 4 years of being trash.
In all honesty, though, shout out to Sean, because when you're covering a team and they're not good, or like when I was covering the Red Wings when they were totally eliminated from playoffs and they had a 20-game stretch of terribleness, it is so hard to stay locked in and stay positive about a team you're covering. And Sean does a really good job at it.
Kills it
shout out
too.
to him.
Kills it. Great job doing it.
But you gotta think. There's a lot of risks. All right, with owning an NBA franchise, and some guys, when they have franchises, they just don't want to let them go. So as much as I agree, it sounds great. Like, sell the team. It's like, it ain't gonna happen. You're like,
no, it's not. But it's just like at some point, it was the same thing with the Lions. Like, you're asking the Fords, like, dude, what are we doing? Like, if you're not gonna do it, like, let's move on.
Sell the team, and then they just did better.
It seems like every move that's made from Tom Gore's, like, I don't know, maybe this is the one that's turning point, but it's like they just keep making these moves, and now it's like you just paid a coach $60 million, and now you're gonna take that. Like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, what are we actually doing here? This is ridiculous. This is like a different level of what are we doing?
Weezy says, Booner, were you yelling sell the team to Sheila after 60 years?
No, to be honest, you want to be honest? Sheila just took over the team a couple years ago, so no one was yelling it to Sheila. When Sheila took over, that was when people were like, here we go, something's happening. So it's a different ownership. Same family, different owner.
Well, that first year, it didn't feel great. I'm gonna tell you.
Maybe
that.
Tom Gore's son, or if he has some kids, maybe they can do better than him. Maybe try that out. I don't know.
Yeah, and Sheila's
brother,
like
sister.
And it sucks. I mean, and it's different because the Lions have had the same ownership, and then they just handed it down to Sheila.
Someone who
Pistons
cares.
have had different ownership. Like Tom hasn't been the owner since my entire lifetime. So, it is a little bit
playoff game.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. Playoff series. Wait,
I don't know if he's ever won a game. They get swept every time he's had
might be right.
Game. I don't know if he's ever experienced an actual playoff win. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, dude, they've got swept the 2 times they were in.
Yeah, it's a tough world we're in as a Pistons fan. It's a tough world we're in. But hey,
must suck.
Yep,
must suck.
I mean, hey, to be fair, you know where I'm going.
Where?
Don't.
We're not doing that. I'm on Gentry's side.
Don't.
With
Booner,
Gentry.
you better be on my side.
No, I'm on your
Lucas
side.
is on my side. He doesn't even watch.
The eyes are playing. Let's not disrespect the eyes are playing.
Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong, Klotz?
No. I almost want to mute this guy.
The Red Wings have improved every year. The Pistons have gotten worse. They still fucking suck. Ownership shit. The GM shit. The head coach.
It sounds like insecurity, Gentry. Gentry breed, brother.
The only statement I have is did or did not.
No, this is stupid.
Mo Sider and Cade had the same offseason.
This is dumb.
They both started their offseason at the same time. All right. Is it the truth or is it not? I'm not saying they're the same organization, but did they not both start their offseason technically?
Jeff. One team was one game out of the playoffs. The other team had the worst record in franchise history. Let's move on. You're gonna get me mad, and I'm about to go to bed soon. You're gonna get me riled up.
They both went to Cabo together. All right. Is that fair? I think it's fair.
I don't like to use the word hate a lot, but right now I think I hate Jeff.
It's all good.
I won't say the season. The season was it was a good season by the Red Wings. They didn't make the playoffs, but it was a good season. But to be fair, I'm like, it's my Neil Rule argument because I'm not wrong. You can't argue it. They both started.
One team has a future, the other doesn't. One team looks great, the other doesn't. One team's on an upward trajectory.
Oh yeah,
the other
you're absolutely right.
At the bottom of the barrel, the worst franchise in the history of all sports right now. And the other team was one game from the playoffs. The other team's going to make the playoff next year. This team hasn't done anything in 16 years. What are we doing here?
ETN.
Right, I'm sorry. You got me going. You wanted to get someone. You wanted to get someone going.
All right. We'll get out of here. Great show today. A lot of fun. We appreciate all of you. You guys make
way to hold it down, fellas.
Love you guys, man.
And we appreciate you, Klotz, for popping in there in the second hour. It was fun.
The people.
Yeah, you guys make it worth it. We appreciate you all for 7,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 10,000. So let's keep pushing until tomorrow.
The path, baby.
Stay out there.
Love you guys.
Take
Peace.
Care. Until tomorrow. Deuces.